Hey guys,
Hey.
welcome to the D-pad.
Hello.
We got ourselves a very special video.
Special.
We're recording this on the right day. It might go up a little later, but as we're recording this, it is August 23rd, 2016, which makes it not only the 25th anniversary of the American release of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, but it's also actually the 25th anniversary of the day that the World Wide Web was turned on for the first time.
And it's also the day after the 30th anniversary of Dustin Deren's birth.
Exactly. So we decided to dedicate this to Dustin while we talk about the Super Nintendo on the World Wide Web.
Oh my God, that's what we're... That's insane. You brought it all together. I'm
Double
amazed.
25s and a 30. It's a big day.
So, Rick, what's this video going to be about?
We're going to talk about the top 25 Super Nintendo games ever released, at least in the U.S.
In our opinion.
In our opinion, yeah. Right at the top, this is our opinion. This list was compiled by myself, John, and Ian.
Ian actually contributed, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything for the D-pad anymore, but it's nice of him to play along.
The way this works, it's actually very similar to how we did our top 10 and top 10 worst Zelda games so far, out of the ones that we played on the channel so far. So each of us put together a list of our individual top 25, and we used a kind of modified version of what's called instant runoff voting to determine which games go where in a large 25. Like in a team-wide top 25, some of the games that one of us put into the mix didn't make it to the top 25.
But we'll talk about those too.
Yeah, in fact, actually, all of the games that at least two of us had on our list made it onto the top 25.
And that's something we should talk about too. Our lists overlap significally.
Yeah.
Ian and I are brothers and grew up with largely the same games.
You two have
so they
nearly
are very close.
You two have very little not overlap between yours.
Right.
Like so, for
but even
example,
you and me only have 4 or 5 differences.
a couple of the
The
got
order
a little,
is vastly different between all 3 of us,
So-
but the games themselves.
So a couple little thoughts about this on the way in here. So for one, when we talk about the games, you're going to see it on the bottom. I'm probably pointing the wrong way, aren't I?
Right now you're pointing to my penis.
I'm pointing at his penis, which is bottom of the screen. You're going to see the game title, and then up on the side, you're going to see 2 or 3 numbers.
Now you're pointing the direction my penis is going.
Yeah. The green one is me. The red one is John.
What's
the
wrong
purple
with
one
me?
is Ian. Those are our individual rankings of those games, if we rank them at all.
Oh, man.
And the big blue one is the one that all of us did. So what's interesting about this is...
Do you not? Okay.
out of the entire top 25 for the team, John only submitted 1 that did not make it into the top 25. Ian submitted 3 that did not make it into the top 25. And I submitted 5 that did not make it into the top 25.
So it sounds like I have the best taste.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because I also checked to see how many times our ranking was correct based on the team. Like how many times, like if I said this was number 7 and it turned out to be number 7 among the 3 of us, I got exactly 2 of those right. One of which was our very first one at number 20, number
Fair.
25.
Okay.
Ian got 3 of those correct. You actually managed to pull off 12. That landed in the exact... I mean, admittedly, part of that is slightly helped by the fact that your overlaps with me are strong and your overlaps with Ian are strong.
But you
me and
two
Ian
aren't
don't have
strong,
nearly
right?
as
No,
much
that
of an
makes
overlap.
sense. That makes sense.
So,
Okay.
so we're going to get this
I
started.
love how much you love statistics.
I
I would have
think
been
they're
like,
neat.
these are games we like.
I think
in
it's
no
pretty neat.
particular order. So it's good that we have Rick involved.
I think it's pretty neat. We have games ranging from the very launch of the system up until the final year that the system was there. So we
like
got
one
really...
of the last games is on our
One
list.
of the last ones, yeah, made it onto the list. So we have a huge
right.
pile of them here.
So to get through it, let's fucking start.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep an eye on. I got my watch with me because I want to make sure that we don't lose any footage. But starting off the list at number 25 was Mega Man X2.
Yep.
This is one that I made number 25. John made number 22. Ian didn't vote for it at all. Mega Man X2. My big thing with it is if Mega Man X didn't happen, then Mega Man X2 would undoubtedly have been way higher on my list. I think the difference between X and X2.
What I would have wanted is the new features that X2 added.
Yeah.
Just as like a second, like if you beat Mega Man X, then you play Mega Man X again, same level, same bosses, but now you have all this cool shit from Mega Man X.
Like a new game plus.
Like the armors and some of the cool weapons.
Yeah.
Like that was cool, but the game itself is weaker than Mega Man X. So that's why it's where it is on our list.
I mean, maybe that's part of the nostalgia factor of X. I know
really
that we're a
don't,
little
'cause
weak in my
I never had played. I guess you're right. I was subject to that too. But See, I saw Mega Man X2 for the first time here on the D-pad.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is objectively worse.
I mean, it is.
So
I think you'd be
So, I don't
hard-pressed to find many people.
And we're
I'm not
talking
gonna say
mostly,
anyone,
I would say,
but-
about level design. The controls are fine.
The controls are totally natural. They feel consistent with Mega Man X.
I think it's mostly level
and
design.
X3.
And they were starting to stretch their character design, too, a little bit.
In the
there.
second game, they already were having trouble with it.
They're like, shit, we're out of animals.
Yeah.
Let's do Crystal Snail and Wire Sponge.
Were those two? I thought those were three.
Those were two, I
Those were
think.
two?
Yeah.
I think you're right. Was that also like Flame Stag and... Oh, there was the other Wheel Gator. I like Wheel Gator. Wheel Gator is actually
Wheel Gator's
one
got
I
a good
do
design.
really like.
Oh, and they had the weird moth dude.
Oh, Morph Moth. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so like they had
which are
decent
fine.
designs, but you could tell that they were all like they got
No,
themselves
Wire
in trouble.
Sponge was not decent.
They got themselves in trouble with the adjective animal setup.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, Mega Man X2. I think that's enough for that one.
Yeah. So next up, we actually have a tie for 23rd. Somehow,
Oh,
it's
okay. Fair enough.
So we have two of them. We'll talk about them one at a time. The first one is Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3.
Mm-hmm.
So you made this your number 20. Ian made this his number 25.
Interesting.
So they both made it onto the list.
Yep.
I didn't really play a lot of Mortal Kombat as a kid, and I haven't played it a lot since. So I don't have.
So I'll talk about this one. Then.
Yeah.
So basically, as a kid in the '90s, most of us played some Mortal Kombat. It was all the gameplay of Street Fighter. Actually, I think it was more accessible gameplay than Street Fighter.
Yes, combos were not
And
nearly as prevalent or required.
And the shock value made it really big in the culture, so all the kids were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think basically like the original was a good game. Mortal Kombat 2 was a better game. Mortal Kombat 3 didn't feel quite as good, but then they released Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which fixed all that, added all the characters they'd ever had, all the moves they ever had. And it was just like, okay, like if you're going to pick one version, this one is the best. Ian and I both went back and forth on whether to use UMK3 or Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah.
But I think you can get more replay value out of UMK3.
Right.
So if we had to have a fighting game on there, and it had to be, Ian and I don't like Street Fighter, or at least I don't.
And I'm about as familiar with it as I am with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Less so, actually. I played Mortal Kombat a little bit as a kid. I did not play Street Fighter as a kid at all.
I played Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat on the Genesis, and I found Street Fighter more frustrating, and Mortal Kombat was learnable, at least to 9-year-old me, right? So, and UMK3 was just the best one. It had all the cool characters and stuff.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Okay,
good.
cool.
And the other one?
The other game that tied at number 23 was Mario Paint.
Yeah.
This is one that Ian voted number 20 and you voted number 25. So it flipped, and I didn't vote for either of them. So there's literally no way
man.
they couldn't be tied.
That's how I introduce my brother to people. It's like, oh, it's Ian. We're the same, but a little different.
Yeah.
Which
I think
is-
of Mortal Kombat the way he thinks of Mario Paint.
No, I know exactly why I put it on there. It was because that game, I've wasted hours on that game. So my uncle had it, and I didn't. And my mom, we would spend a lot of time at my uncle and aunt's house. And I didn't have anything to do. And they had Mario Paint. And I was like, oh, this is cool and weird. And I spent hours composing dumb music with that dumb goddamn music thing.
Meow, 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 meow.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum.
Boop. Yeah. So I know that's where I spent the most of my time.
Ba-da-dum,
Yeah.
bum, ba-da-dum.
Yeah. And like some of them, like the fly mini game stands out in my brain. But
I was glad they brought that back for Mario Maker. I
didn't
thought that
use
was
it
cute.
much for actual painting. I used it for the mini games, and they were good, and the composing. So that's why I did it. I assume Ian's memory is the same. Although, interestingly,
I tried the animations.
Ian was
they were
a
hard to do.
fetus during the time I'm referring to.
So he didn't play a lot of it
So
at the time that it launched.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see when he played it. He said that he emulated some games. So I'm wondering if that's one of his emulated
For what
games.
it's worth, so I'm 29. John is just
28.
about to turn 29, and Ian is 22, 3. 2. Okay, so there's a bit of a difference in terms of how we view the games too. I think because we kind of got to grow up in the prime time of the Super Nintendo where we were when it came out we were 4 or 5, and by the time it was done we were 13. So it was that exact moment of obsession.
I was Genesis through and through. I didn't get a Super Nintendo until it was dead. I got the compact model of the Super Nintendo. Mm-hmm. So by the time they released that, they
Super
were
Nintendo
done.
2, wow, yeah, that was 96, I think.
Yeah,
that was pretty late.
The 64 was already out at that point.
Yeah, yes. They released those about the same time. I think the idea, and they do that. I mean, they still do that now. They'll release new models of the PlayStation right before they put out.
They're
the next
releasing
one.
a new model of the NES this year.
I like that. I'm
HD
excited
with
by that.
included games. I'm excited.
We'll definitely be. I think I might have pre-ordered one of those. I
I'm
want to
sure
get my
you
hands
did.
on that to like just fuck around with it. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no,
It'll be
totally.
fun. But yeah, Mario Paint was awesome. I thought the composition stuff was cool.
But it wasn't on your list at all.
It wasn't on my list at all because I tried to. So my list came down to not necessarily what was my favorite, but what I thought was objectively best. And
Right.
it's such
that's
a hard
because
balance
we discussed
to
that a lot
strike.
in the car yesterday.
Yeah.
Are we talking about what do we think is objectively the best, or critically the best, or most influential, or most for us?
I think it's a
which one
combination
means
of
the
all of
most for
those.
us? Which one is the most nostalgic? That plays into all of it. But you just said you're trying to pick what's objectively best.
I think that was
whereas
the biggest
nostalgia and
factor.
personal preference is the biggest for
That's
me.
fair. The my biggest issue with Mario Paint is that while it is an exceptional tool, as a game, it's hard to gauge.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, like
But
and it's
in
not
my
like every
brain,
game has
like-
to have an end game. I thought about adding SimCity just because it was such a big deal as a launch title on Super Nintendo. You'd never get that on the NES at the time. They actually did demake it onto the NES right before the NES was done. But
in my brain, it was a game I sunk a lot of hours into. I was excited to go back and play, and it made me feel creative. So I was like, "This is solid."
that's fair.
Cool.
And it made our list. Tied for 23rd with Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which also made us feel very creative about painting, but with
blood
blood.
or green blood if you're Reptile.
Yeah.
Whoosh. Are we gonna have cool effects when we go from like 23 to 22?
Yeah.
Are you
That
just
was
gonna cut
it.
that frame and use that every time? Every time we switch now?
Maybe.
Please don't.
We'll have to see. Let's see. Let's move up to our number 22. All right. So this was another one. So I mentioned that, what was it? 5 of the games that I listed did not make it on the list, which means there were 5 games that I didn't vote for that are in the top 25. This, like the last 2 and this one are all in a row ones that I didn't put in.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay.
so number 22, we have from.
Which actually shows how aligned we really are.
Yeah.
Because our core games are all
yeah,
the same.
the highest one in here that not all 3 of us did not. The highest one up that only 2 of us submitted is at number 14.
This is
Past
getting
that,
confusing.
they're all. Not only are they all ones that we've all put in, but like minus, with the exception of a single 16, all of them are 14 or like we are. It's almost identical. The pack of top 13 that we get. So number 22. Before we get there, developed by Neverland, published by Natsume in the United States. Lufia 2.
Yeah. You never play that?
No. See, that's the
Yeah.
thing. This is the one I was most. So I almost had to record this earlier just because like timing and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
But I was like, of the whole thing on the list, I can talk about Mortal Kombat. I can talk about Mario Paint. I can talk about some of the stuff that's further up. But Lufia 2, I literally know nothing about.
So it's a cool RPG. The original Lufia game was buggy as shit, but it was still pretty good. They're cool RPGs that are a little more lighthearted than Final Fantasy. They have the sort of Dragon Quest style of battle where you are first person looking at your enemy. But it had some cool magic, and it just it was one of the first RPGs I was okay with. Like, RPGs are my favorite genre, or at least for the Super Nintendo they are. But as a kid, I didn't want to play them. It was weird. Like, I would see my uncle playing it and be like, this is stupid. It's just text. I don't want to do it. Like, and I didn't get it for a long time. Not till I was like 10 or 12 or something. I don't know, whatever 5th grade is. But Lufia and also Lunar, Silver Star Story for Sega CD.
Nice.
Lunar was the first
Lunar's
RPG I enjoyed.
Lunar is usually considered like one of the really good Sega CD games among not a whole lot of very good Sega CD games.
Yes, absolutely true. So that was
Absolutely truth.
absolutely truth. So that was the first RPG I enjoyed, and Lufia kind of hit the same chord for me early on in my RPG developmental stage. And I don't want to brag, but I would assume that that's the reason Ian even knows about it and why he's probably played it. I think we own it or borrowed it from someone to the point where now we own it, or he emulated it.
Oh no, anything but that.
So we stole it. Either we stole it from someone we
Cops
know
find
personally, or we stole it from the internet. But yeah, so I wish he was here. It would be cool.
I wish that we
it
had
would
him.
be cool
had him
to talk to him about this. Maybe I'll shoot him a text in between.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So, and for what it's worth, another fun stat: about almost exactly 1/4 of this list is RPGs.
Yeah,
which says a lot about Super Nintendo. There's a lot that didn't
Right.
make it onto this list. Just like, I mean, I think there's 1 or 2 that are in our honorable mentions even that didn't quite make it on the list.
and I would say like we're pretty balanced gamers. We like most
so.
genres. We give fair due to most genres. We each have our own individual preferences. Like, I don't really like first-person shooters, whereas you're a little more open to it, but you're still not a huge FPS guy. Ben likes FPSs more, I think.
Yeah.
You know, so we're pretty balanced, but the Super Nintendo was just the golden age of RPGs.
It really
it's
was.
less about us and more about
some of the best RPGs ever made, and most of them by Squaresoft, hilariously, in a period of like 3 years.
That didn't used to be hilarious. It used to be you expected Squaresoft to make awesome shit.
Now, granted,
it used to be called Squaresoft. Fucking kids watching this don't even know what we're talking about.
I know, that's true. Let's see. Let's think about it. It's been almost 20 years now since Square was Square. I think 97 was when they switched to Square Enix. Were they? Wait, no, they were Square.
No,
they switched to Square Enix
Squaresoft,
for 10, not 7.
then they switched to Square, then they switched to Square Enix around 10. Yeah.
They were Square. They were Square during the Super Nintendo years.
It was hip to be Square. Next.
All right. Number 21. This is one that I actually voted on. Hooray! So this one is, I think, the only Konami entry on the entire list, which is kind of a bummer. But I remember Konami being a bigger like arcade and Sega. Crew instead of Nintendo. But this was a rare one that the Super Nintendo got, which was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time.
Yeah.
What an awesome, one of the best arcade ports I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was the only one that felt like the arcade experience on the Super Nintendo, but in a way that made it better. Because arcades could be really frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted you to like die and put in a lot of quarters. Like, fair enough.
And I mean, it's fair. What was it? My favorite story I just put the other day, all of my Nintendo Power magazines are now in the bottom shelf in our living room.
Which is cool.
And in one of them, they're talking about Carnival, the arcade game. And
I thought you were going to say Carnitas.
There was some... They were making jokes because the final boss of that game is named Token Taker. Huh. Because it was an arcade game. Yeah. But it got ported to, I think, N64 or something. And it was like, well, it doesn't make much sense now. But
fair.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's cute.
Yeah.
You know, I went through so in right near Northampton where Megan lives, there's a bar called Quarters, and it's like a
I think
barcade.
We put pictures up at one point.
Did we?
On
nice.
Facebook.
Yeah. It's an awesome place, and we made the mistake of going Saturday morning when it was full of kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say
mistake.
So here's the thing.
Mistake.
It is still a bar. Let's not forget that it is a bar. Yeah. And they advertised like,
well, it's a bar, restaurant, arcade.
What was the name of the? Yes, but what was the name of the event?
Saturday morning AM cartoons or something
like that. But the idea was you could go in, you could spend like $10 and get unlimited tokens and unlimited cereal, and they would play like old 90s cartoons on the wall.
Yeah.
Now
Which
here's
is
the thing.
Sweet idea.
It's a sweet idea, and like at first it's like, oh, money, unlimited tokens. Unlimited cereal, that could be anybody, but 90s cartoons in particular is targeting a specific demographic, namely 90s kids.
Which are now having their own kids and bringing them to this fucking event.
All right, fair. That's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
So,
but like,
people in our cohort, Rick, are having like 5-year-olds.
Dude,
they're not having 5-year-olds. They've had babies and they're 5 years old.
One of my best friends from high school has like a 9-year-old.
My cousin Cody has his 4th child on the way. And he's my age. The 4th is an accident. He had a vasectomy, and now he has a 4th baby on the way.
Oh, okay.
Whoops.
That's fair. That's the kind of accident that's like, okay, look, it's not like we didn't want you. It's like we just weren't trying, and it happened.
Right. Well, they had a vasectomy. They didn't want you.
Well, yeah. All right.
But anyway, not relevant.
Earlier we were looking at. I was playing with the cats, and I mumbled to myself,
I better have a vasectomy.
No, I mumbled to myself. The best thing about cats is we don't have to tell you you're adopted.
Cute.
There we go.
This is what Rick says to the cats when he's home alone with them.
Yeah. Tonka was climbing on my shoulders. It was adorable. So Ninja Turtles 4. I think Ninja Turtles 2 and 3 were also awesome, but they were on the
Great
NES,
games
not
on
Super
the
Nintendo.
NES, yeah.
And 4 just kind of
It was
extreme.
It was not nearly as extreme as Mega Man 6 to Mega Man X, but it was a similar upgrade.
Yeah.
You know?
It
was like, oh, wow, this is cool.
It was less of a jump and more of a refinement.
Oh, but Quarters, let's go back.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
They have the Simpsons Konami beat 'em up.
Yeah.
Which is a similar game to Turtles, the Turtles beat 'em up.
Yep.
And it also eats Quarters.
It definitely does. That's a hard goddamn game. That's one.
I think they use the same engine for those, but anyway, what's next?
Whoop. All right. Number 20. This is the second to last one that I didn't vote on. From Capcom, 1994's Demon's Quest. Demon's Crest.
I think in Japan it was Quest, and I think in
really?
America it was Crest. It's very confusing.
Fair enough.
If Dustin were here,
you rated this very high.
Yes, if Dustin were here, he also would have rated it high. Dustin and I spent many summers in grade school playing this game together at his grandparents' house. It's a really cool game. It has sort of a Castlevania vibe, but it's kind of better, or at least for that system it was. And you get different powers. And you're like a demon. You're like a fire demon, but you can get an earth power and a water power. And it's a side scroller. It's awesome. Most of you have probably not played it, and it's great. You should check it out. YouTube.
I guess I'll have to.
Maybe we should do.
I was gonna say maybe we could do that sometime.
Yeah, why not?
Though, granted, the last time I played a game that you and Dustin both recommended to me, Dustin almost had a fucking aneurysm.
He might.
Admittedly, though, Shadowgate is an intentionally frustrating
Obtuse.
game.
Yeah,
that's on
it
purpose.
is.
I feel like Demon's Crest is more of like a.
It's still tricky, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not a game that's gonna be like, oh, whoops, you stepped too far away. Now you're definitely gonna die in like 3 minutes.
Shadowgate.
Oh man,
Anyway,
it was still fun. I had a good time with it. It has literally no replay value.
Demon's Crest is more fun than Shadowgate.
Fair enough. I enjoyed Shadowgate. It was a good experience. I have a soft spot for point and click adventure games.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Ace Attorney games brought that genre back from the grave. It really was nowhere, and then that came back. But games like those, I didn't play a lot of them. Deja Vu on the NES was one that I played a lot as a kid because I couldn't quite get it right, and like I got to the very end of the game and you see a silhouette in the door and I was like, oh shit, that guy's gonna attack me. So I pulled out my gun and I shoot through the glass and I kill whoever's on the other side. And apparently that's a game over condition that doesn't trigger until you go and open the door. Except I didn't have the key to the door, so I couldn't open the door. So I did like 3 more hours of shit, save states and all, and then came back and it was like, oh no, he's dead, you lose. I'm like, well, I have no save states that far back, and I'm not playing this whole fucking thing again right now.
And that's why Rick was driven insane by a game that is similar to a game that is not the game we're talking about for position number 20 on this list.
That's true. Demon's Crest. Play it, apparently.
It actually, the overworld, you fly from level to level, but you like fly up in mode 7, almost like an airship in Final Fantasy.
Nice.
But you're like a fucking horrible demon flying around, and it's cool. Check it out.
Nice. Reminds me kind of ActRaiser a little bit.
Yeah, it's like ActRaiser, Ghosts and Goblins, and Castlevania had a better baby.
Ooh, all right, cool. All right, number 19. This is the first one that all 3 of us voted for. Unsurprisingly, it is a Square game, the first of several on this list. Yeah. Square has I think Square has more than any other company on this list outside Nintendo itself. Mm-hmm. Actually, it might have more than Nintendo too in terms of developer, not publisher. That's mostly Nintendo. At number 19, Secret of Mana, or Mana, whichever way you
I always said Mana as a kid, and I played Secret of Mana and I played Magic. But everyone was like, "Oh, it's Mana," but I was like, "You don't fucking know any better than me." It's probably Mana, but still. Okay. Now, Mana, M-A-N-N-A, is a word.
Yeah.
And it's like a religious word, I think, like something about bread or religious bread and Jews or whatever. It's fine. But you've heard like manna from heaven. Like you've heard that.
I think it's just a general word for sustenance.
Yeah.
I don't think it means like a tangible thing. I think it's just an abstract nourishment.
But mana, especially going by Japanese pronunciation, is probably mana. But whatever, not important. It was a cool game. It's not our favorite. That's why it's further down the list. But it's a game that I didn't dig enough into. Actually, my very first girlfriend was Jana Deren, Dustin's sister, in first grade, and she lent me Secret of Mana.
And she follows us on Twitter now. You know that, right?
I'm sure she does. That's great. We're
recently,
pretty,
last couple of months actually.
I would say we're still pretty
Hi, if you're watching
close.
This,
yeah, right. I'd say we're still pretty close, but we don't hang out as much as I'd like. But I could literally say that about any and all of my friends. So except you, motherfucker.
For the first time in like 3 years, we don't work together anymore.
I know. I miss you, bud. So anyway, Jana, my first.
Oh, jeez. Sorry
so my
about
hot
that.
and heavy first grade girlfriend, Dustin's sister, Jana Deren, as a token of her affection, lent me Secret of Mana.
His birthday was like yesterday.
So was hers. They're twins.
It's true.
They're twins.
Okay, in fairness, you've known them for like 28 years and I haven't.
Yeah.
I've known them for only 8 years. One of them.
That's fair. Oh, you've still never met Jana, have you?
I don't know if I had. Did she come to the Christmas party a couple years ago?
No.
Then no.
Okay. Anyway, it's fine. She lent me Secret of Mana, and I played it, and she was in love with it, and we would run around.
And in love with him.
And it
was
great.
It
was a great time. First grade, I've never had a better year since. Anyway, so we would run around the playground. Yeah. So we'd run around the playground, and like I would be the warrior, and she would be the sprite, and or no.
Well, you were both sprites.
She had a short. No, she would be the girl, and then her short friend would be the sprite. Our friend Becca, whose birthday is also August 22nd.
Yep. She was in that thing we don't talk about.
Indeed, she was.
Yep. Dustin, actually.
This is meandering. Anyway, Secret of
Mana.
Mana.
It's a great story about number 19.
It was very influential to my life and childhood, and I liked it. But at the time, I didn't have the focus to get through it.
Yeah.
So I played a lot more of it as I was older, but then I got distracted by Chrono Trigger. So I'm not sure I've ever even beaten it, but I know it would be in my 25 if I had to go to a desert island and take some games with me.
Yeah, I know that I didn't. I know that I haven't beaten it. I've only played a couple hours of it, but the gameplay was sharp and like.
I just remember a dragon in a fortress.
I've never played. The closest that I can give to a game that plays kind of like that is Zelda, which is weird because Secret of Mana is an RPG. There's no questioning that. It's an adventure RPG, but it's an RPG. Zelda always has the like soft RPG kind of like, it's kind of an RPG. It's like, no, it's an adventure game that has like
if it weren't for Zelda, adventure game wouldn't even be a genre.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, really in a big way. I mean, there were a few adventure games, but it was never codified.
Right. I mean, like even in 2016, like Dark Souls is more RPG than it is adventure game.
I'd say that's an adventure RPG.
Yeah, exactly. It's
like
both.
that's in the same realm
as
Secret of Mana. Actually,
but you have
in
experience
terms of
and stats and leveling.
Yeah,
it's got all that.
Your actual trek itself is meaningful, and it's not just panels that you walk across for puzzle solving. It's actual like,
if Zelda didn't exist, we'd call them RPGs and punchy RPGs.
Kinda, yeah. Stab PGs.
Stab PGs. Next,
but yeah, so that was one I ranked it kind of low because I haven't played much, but what I played I loved, and I know how important it is in terms of gaming.
And Legend of Mana, the PlayStation spiritual sequel, whatever, is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah,
and I want to get through that game, but for similar reasons, actually, I couldn't get through that game.
Interesting.
But it is beautiful, and it's still on my list of things like some rainy summer when I'm unemployed and have money, which will never happen. I'll go back and play all these games.
Fair enough.
But the art design in Legend of Mana is worth it just alone.
Yeah.
Anyway, next.
Nice. That was actually one for what it's worth that Ian ranked very highly.
Yeah, so he's probably
it's like middle of the list, I guess. Not super highly, but middle of the list. It's the highest ranked one below most of the rest of this, like until we get to that top 13.
That doesn't mean shit. It's the highest ranked one that's not in the top.
He voted this much higher than the next like 6 of these in a row, basically.
Okay, sure.
But basically I dragged his vote down because I voted it lower in the 25.
Right. Okay, and by lower he means higher.
But number 18 on the list is, you didn't rank this very highly. I ranked it. Ian, this is the other one that Ian ranked really high comparatively. Is our first rare title. Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie's Double Trouble.
Diddy's Double...
I was going to say Diddy's Double Trouble. I was like, nope, hang on. Dixie's Double Trouble.
Dixie...
Exclamation point.
Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, oh yeah, because DKC2 is Diddy's Conquest, so it's always
It's got like a kind
the
of
main guy. Okay, I get it. He ranked that one. Did he rank that one higher than 2?
No.
Good. Because I'll fucking beat him.
Spoilers.
I mean, to be honest, DKC3... So the way I explained it before, and we'll probably come back to this, but...
Before, off camera, so not important for you guys.
So Donkey Kong Country was a great game.
Yes.
Donkey Kong Country 2...
Incredibly influential game.
Donkey Kong Country 2 expanded on that laterally and vertically, in that it was more of what made DKC great, and added new twists on it that made it
I feel like you're
greater.
describing DKC 2 a little bit early.
But DKC 3... did not expand laterally. It only expanded by adding more of what was there.
There were no major
others.
Functional differences to the game.
Right. So that's my general argument. I mean, yeah, they had like a new animal companion. Cool. But
the only thing that I can think that they changed was that like Dixie could throw Kitty, and I think he could ground pound when you threw him. But that's about it.
Yeah, but like so that's So DKC 2 felt like a revolution, whereas DKC 3 felt like an evolution.
It felt like 3 felt like the completion of the idea that 2 was, but not in a. It was like DKC 2 was like 90% of what they wanted to do. So DKC 1 was like 50%. DKC 2 was like 90%, and then DKC 3 was like that last 10%. But it's that incremental step is so small that it really.
I wouldn't say that. I think DK, and you can hear where I'm going with this a couple notches down on the list, but I think DKC 2 was a perfect finish, fleshed out. This is what we wanted to make, and then they were like, "That was successful. Make another one." They're like, "I don't know, more levels and shit."
Maybe.
Like, and the other thing is, let's be real, Kiddy Kong is a shitty character.
Kiddy Kong is Donkey Kong.
He's just a shitty character.
Well, no, like literally how
he's
he
a
plays,
shitty Donkey Kong.
He plays exactly like Donkey Kong.
He's a shitty Donkey Kong.
Yeah, and I hate when he cries.
And I hate how King K. Rool is now a mad professor.
Like, no,
that's you.
No.
Yeah. Crying Baby is a recurring theme on this list.
Are they?
There's at least one more.
There isn't at least one more.
Anyway, next. Oh, and I don't like the mad scientist King K. Rool as much as I like the pirate King K. Rool.
Pirate King K. Rool is good. One thing I like about those games.
Talk about
yeah. All right. We'll talk about that in the next thing. All right. So. Moving on, making sure that we got time left on our thing here. We do. We got plenty of time on there. Next up at number 17. I'm just making sure we didn't skip any. That'd be really
17.
17. This is one that we all were one off in terms of like our ranking for this. We all were like almost identical in terms of how we view this game. This is the first one on the list that was just Nintendo, and that is Super Mario Kart.
Yeah, this one I kind of listed because I felt like I had to. I'll admit that. If I had 25 games in front of me and I was by myself, I wouldn't pick it up to play very often. You know?
But you'd still pick it up to play.
Yeah, I'd be much more likely to if I was sitting there with my brother.
That's fine.
It's really fun to destroy
There's
him.
a lot of, there are games that play better as multiplayer than they do
and I think that does.
player.
I think battle mode is the saving grace of that game. It's not that, it's not that it's not a good game. It's a great game.
Pouring myself another dark and stormy. The drink of Super Adventure Rock, man. Don't mind me.
A bunch of water.
Because he's already had drinks. Don't judge me for this.
I drink out with people and socially, but
I work.
Rick works and drinks at home.
Like a responsible adult.
Yeah. Actually, I drank
my
at the
God,
office
that's
too
so
today.
sad.
Oh, man, yeah.
Oh, shit.
I made the mistake of buying an office box of wine, and now every day at 4 o'clock, my friend Paul's like, "Here's your glass of wine." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank
Wasn't
you.
gonna drink. Okay, it's fine." So anyway, Mario Kart, great game, revolutionary. My favorite racer for the Super Nintendo, and maybe ever. I think there were better Mario Karts.
Yes, that's definitely
eventually.
The franchise is
but
hard
I'd
to
actually
beat.
It's pretty close for me between everyone thinks Mario Kart 64 is the best, but I actually am pretty close on Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64.
Mario 64 was nice because it expanded the scope of a lot of those courses, but I think Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo is better than 64 in terms of, it was just tighter. 64 felt very sloppy. It was a very early N64 title.
Yes. Yep. It was good. It just wasn't the same.
How you can identify an early N64 title from a late one. The use of floating text as a texture. If you see an object interacting in 3D and it is literally typed out text, that's an early N64 game. When you bounce, I forget what it says. It says like a word like jump or hop or boing or something, but it's literally this like tall serifed font in white that just like comes out of the back of your car.
But this isn't a technical limitation. This is a design choice.
A little bit. It was probably a technical limitation too. There's only so much, like they couldn't render really crazy 3D text often. They saved that usually for the title screen and shit like that. But
well, I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about, but maybe you put it in the video here.
Probably not.
Probably not, guys. Fucking too much work. Which is fair. We gotta get this up.
Yeah. Just look. The next time you play an N64, oh, Blast Core did that a fucking shitload.
Oh yeah,
Blast Core was loaded with like words that just kind of were on the screen, but they weren't GUI. They weren't like the user interface stuff. It was floating and interacting with the things going on around it.
Shrug emoji. You know what sucked though? Pilot Wings and Wave Racer. Who the fuck would launch a console with those two pieces of shit?
You know what I find hilarious?
Idiots.
not only was Wave Race a
Bullshit.
terrible N64 game,
It's just
they then made it a launch title for the GameCube, and it was literally a port. There was like nothing added to it. It was the same fucking I thought I was insane because I had Wave Race 64 and I didn't like it.
no, I know.
And then
me
I
too.
got it when I got my GameCube, and I
Like,
played
hey,
it. I was
wait a
like,
minute. No, this is just shit.
this is literally the same game
I'm
with
not the
slightly
problem.
nicer
That's
water
the
with
problem.
water
Yeah.
physics.
It was a beautiful game, even for 64 in its
It
time.
was. It was a good looking
But
game. It was just a
doesn't
bad game.
matter. Ugh.
Jesus, awful.
Next.
Next up on the list, number 16. I didn't include this for reasons that I'm definitely going to have to explain. This is another Nintendo entry, and that is Super Mario All-Stars.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this. We talked about it.
Yeah.
Super Mario All-Stars, I think, is one of the best gaming experiences you can get on the Super Nintendo, but it's not really a Super Nintendo game. Depends on who you ask. Depends on how you count it.
My
I
biggest
think if I'm going to play any of those old games, the only reason I would ever pick the NES version is for nostalgia, because there are better versions, or as good or better versions on Super Mario All-Stars. So
I
there's
think
no
they're
reason not to have that in the library.
I think they are effectively equal. I really don't see, and that's part of the reason I didn't include it. One, it's not, now granted we have ports on this list, but none of them outside of this one game, as far as I'm aware, are NES ports to the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, technically it's a remake, right? It's not a port.
It's basically a port.
It's basically a port.
a compilation port. It's definitely not a remake.
Yeah.
But the other thing is there was no, the games felt very, there was no substantial difference between the two. I played the NES stuff and the Super Nintendo stuff a lot, and just
But part of me, the mama bird in me, likes having it in one place.
fine, but
With
that
pretty
doesn't
graphics.
change the game.
No, you're right. It's controversial. I get it. This reminds me of a funny story that I'm
other-
going to tell if
Okay.
you don't mind. I had one friend in second grade who was kind of like the bad kid, but we were friends. And
The bad kid or the bad kid?
no, like the bad kid.
I'm a bad kid.
No, he like came from a bad family and isn't doing well now. He was a bad kid. But
John, I'm sorry things were this rough. Do you want to talk
it's
about
not
it?
me. It's my friend. Now,
I have this friend.
so
Right.
Mario, what do they call it? Lost Levels.
Yeah.
The one that was Super Mario 2 in Japan, released in America with Super Mario All-Stars as Super Mario Lost Levels.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have, so we were playing through this game. We got pretty far in. We were at like level 6, World 6, World 7. We were doing well.
And then he shit all over. I'm sorry.
They actually have negative warp zones. Warp zones
Yeah.
that will throw you
They'll
back
throw you back.
earlier. So
Not a lot, but they do.
So they had a couple of those, and we were playing it, and once you are in the room with the warp zone, that's your only option.
Yep.
So we're like in like one of the last levels, and we get
I
there.
think 7 has a warp that throws you back to 2 or
2.
3.
Yeah, exactly. We were there, and my friend just goes, "Fucking chinks," and throws the controller. And I'm like, even in second grade, I'm like, oh, that's not okay. And then I was like, dude, you could just shove down the hole and go back and try again.
Oh, wow.
But yeah. So, one, totally wrong nation of people.
Well, doesn't that make the slur more appropriate because he cares so little?
Right. Yeah, in a way it does. He's like, oh, no, they are. Like, never
man.
mind. So anyway, I know that's probably not a great word to say on
I mean,
Rick's Super
no.
PC YouTube channel, The D-Pad.
That's part of a story that you weren't the person.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to
Live.
let it go because it's funny. Sorry,
You
everyone.
can tell when someone is really stressed out. That's where their true colors really show. Because Jesus,
That's totally true.
if you stress someone out to their breaking point, like
Yeah.
you're gonna be an angry version of yourself, but you're gonna be real honest for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
It won't last long
Yep.
because usually what'll happen is someone will say something and then immediately go, "Oh God, oh no, what did I? I'm sorry, I didn't mean it," or something. But like,
Can I tell another story really quick? So I was out to drinks with a client today for work. This has nothing to do with video games. We were out today for drinks with a client after work. I'll be quick. I have a crippling
what he
phobia,
said.
and I have actually a crippling phobia of wasps, yellow jackets, hornets, bees. Not really bees, but the other three are so close to bees that I'm weary of bees too. Really bad. We were at a bar. The windows were open. There was a nest nearby. I just kept getting like assailed by bees. We had like drinks, and they were
Assailed.
just like probably 5 wasps. They were yellow jackets. I keep using the terms. There were 5 yellow jackets flying in and out. And I'm like, and the bartender's like, and the girls next to us are like, and finally, my friend client guy, he's just like, don't worry about it. Just stay still. They won't hurt you. I'm like, I understand it here. My brainstem can't control it.
Yeah,
like,
the lizard brain is going, I need to punch them or fucking run.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, he's not being a dick about it, but finally he just goes and grabs it out of the air with his bare fucking hand and shakes it and throws it and pounds it.
Whoa.
And I'm like,
you can do that?
And he was like, fuck! And he got stung twice, and the stinger was in his hand. And he's like, as soon as I went to do that, I instantly regretted it. But I was committed, so I fucking did it. And I was like, dude, I don't care. You're still my hero, but duh!
Oh, my God.
Anyway, I know that has nothing to do with it, but it was just the most incredible thing that happened to me today. Especially being so scared of yellow jackets. It was amazing to see.
Holy shit.
Next game.
So that was...
that was Mario All-Stars.
That was Mario All-Stars.
You're welcome.
I had a third thing that I was going to say about it, and I forgot what it was.
Yeah, well, you can think about his bees.
The third one, and the more important one is, adding this to the list was already controversial. Then there was the question of, so if that counts, then does Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World, the actual title of that game, also count? It is technically a Super Nintendo game, as is Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. So does that count? Because it's because I mean, if Super Mario All-Stars is on the list, and spoiler, Super Mario World might show up later. I don't know. If both of those are on the list, then wouldn't the combined game technically not only be on the list, but it be at least that high?
Or better, right? Yeah, no.
So we disqualified the combined game.
Yeah, because it was actually a limited edition. It was hard to find anyway.
Yeah. We felt like that was just a little too far over the line of
anyway
stuff.
Next,
moving on, Mario All Stars is the last game that I didn't put into my top 25. The rest of them from here on out are all the ones that I voted for. This is the last one that John didn't vote for. Number 15 is Super Metroid. It's up this high. I voted lower, but how voted very high.
Works, but I'll get to that in a few.
The way that it works is you go by if any. So the way the instant runoff voting normally works is if you're voting in an election, if any candidate has more than 50% of the number one votes, so you vote sequentially. You don't just vote, all right, I'm choosing this person, and that's it. You vote for as many people as you'd like to cast a vote for in order of preference.
Right.
So we did that 25 times for these games. So if there's any game that had at least 2 of us as our number one vote, number one, boom. If it's not, then we start working our way down the list and go, all right, 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 plus 3, and we looked at it that way.
Oh, I get it. So if you vote something that's just you, but it's like a 1 or 2 game for you, it'll still be on the list.
I mean, all the ones that more than one of us voted for is on this list.
Right. But then if you voted something that you were the only one, it could still be on the list.
Theoretically, none of the ones that only one of us submitted made it onto the list.
Okay.
Just mathematically, it was kind of awkward to situate that because you never have a majority of the number one votes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
But yeah, I voted. This one was a number 18 for me, but Ian put it as number 9. Okay. So that really bumped it up a lot. So Super Metroid was one that we infamously played in our earliest days on the channel. It's the first game we ever quit.
Yep.
It's the first.
It's actually
game
one of the only games we've ever quit.
Yeah, we usually play a game all the way through.
Pretty good at completing shit.
The only games I can think of off the top of my head that we have not, that are not currently in progress, that we have not completed are that, Kirby's Return to Dreamland, which we will as part of the Dreamy Let's Play, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, because we just needed to end the Nightmare Before Christmas, or the Fright Before Christmas. And there's one more that we haven't completed, and I don't remember what it is off the top. Oh, Toe Jam and Earl in Planet
because that game was about twice as long as we thought it was.
Yeah. That game was a bit of a slog.
I know, it was like 5 times longer than I think we thought it was.
It's way, it took us forever to get through the chunk that is basically the tutorial to the real game. So,
Ian, when you're ready, I have Ian's comment.
Go for it.
Super Metroid from Ian. Super Metroid, as far as Super Metroid, I've loved that along with all the Metroid games. I got really into them for a while, and it's so good. First time I played through it, I got 87%, and that game has a lot of
Wow.
hidden stuff, so I felt real good.
That is really good. 87% is awesome for a first run.
While I'm here, to go back to Mario Paint, I never even played Mario Paint, but I remember sitting in your room watching you goof around with it a couple times. Ha ha ha, heart bear. And then Lufia 2, little Ian thought that was cool because you let me play it once. So Ian's is very nostalgia based apparently, but that's fine.
All right. As far as Super Metroid goes, it is basically the perfect iteration of the original Metroid games before they jumped into the Prime series. Yeah. There's really no denying how solid those games that it's of the Metroidvania games, it is the most refined, I think, version of it.
It's the only one I put on my list, having played next to none of it, because I know that if I sat down and played it, I would get.
You didn't put this on your list.
I didn't put it on my list at all.
Oh, this was you had 20. He had 26 on his list, and he knocked Super Metroid off as like a runner-up.
Well, because I did technically never. I had it there in case Mario All-Stars didn't count. Whatever.
Yeah.
I know it's good. I've played it. It is good, but I've never played enough of it that I would like feel honest fighting for it as one of my top games. You know what I mean? But I know if I had to take 25 SNES games with me, I know if I took that, it would be good. Whatever. Come over here and say that.
There we go. All right, so this next one is our number 14, and this is the last one that Ian did not submit for. So after this,
we are
every single game got somewhere into our top 25. Not only that, I'll get to that when we get there. So this one is another entry by Square at our number 14, and that is Final Fantasy IV.
Which, honestly, is like a shitty Final Fantasy VI. Go ahead and attack me. Go ahead. I've been watching a lot of South Park, and I'm channeling my inner Randy right now. So
I thought this was America. We call it Final Fantasy II in America. I thought this was America.
I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, it's fine.
You want to go?
Final Fantasy IV is a good game in its own right, but it, in my opinion, doesn't go as deep. The characters are... There's a couple good ones.
Sounds like a negative, not a positive for why it's on the list.
Okay. It came first. It was revolutionary.
Yep.
It was the first of the Final Fantasy games that really like was ambitious in terms of its story. 2 and 3 were a little bit, but like 4 was like
I don't know if 3 was. 2 was
dramatic.
Definitely of the original 3. 2 was definitely.
Kane was a good design. Black Knight / Paladin Cecil was a good design.
Yeah, Cecil was good.
The twins getting turned to stone.
Yeah,
was like a dramatic moment.
If anything, I feel a little guilty I didn't put it higher, if only because the story was, like you said, way more ambitious. You've got a redemption storyline from the beginning that hadn't been seen in Final Fantasy before. You have a lot of dead party members. Like almost every party member you get dies in a really tragic way over the course of this game.
I think that's maybe the problem. Is that
it happens enough that it feels like, oh, well, they're gonna die now.
Right. Like I think the story, they throw so much at you and they're kind of haphazard about it, and they don't let you like get attached before they start fucking with you.
With updated writing, I think that would fix a lot of that.
Maybe. I haven't played any of the remakes. It just didn't grab me dramatically in the same way that 6 did. Now, it's still a good game, still had good battle mechanics. It was more challenging in a lot of ways than 6. And I need to say one more positive thing about it because we're talking about the merits of this game, not the fact that it's not as good as 6.
I hope we're not kind of blurry. We might be a little blurry. We're sitting back on this couch.
Yeah, it'll be fine. You can check it after. What do you think, man? How much did you play of it?
I played it. I beat it. I actually
you do get to go to the fucking moon.
Yep.
And there's a weird subterranean race of dwarf people. They throw a lot of shit at you in that game.
Kluya, Fusoya, and all that shit.
Yeah. And like the Zero Miss is the final boss, right?
I never beat 4 because Zero Miss is so much. You fight Zemus, and then Zemus is a hard final boss at that, like the way that you level up, and then you fight Zero Miss, and it's like literally twice as hard. I never beat it because it was such a just ridiculous spike. I never beat it.
Yeah, this begins the long series of incomprehensible Final Fantasy bosses. Like final bosses.
I would say that was there from the beginning. Chaos was a really weird
I
boss.
guess you're right, yeah.
I'm trying to remember who the final boss of 2 was.
I don't even know. I didn't play 2, proper 2. We're talking about Final Fantasy 2 for the Super Nintendo in the States, but it's Final Fantasy 4.
Right.
By now, everyone fucking gets it. It's not worth belaboring that point anymore.
Right.
But you do get to go to the moon, and that's cool. And the Sid in that game is pretty solid.
So it was pretty good.
Next.
He also sacrificed himself, right?
Probably. I just assume everyone's dead in that game.
Yeah, he's one of the characters. In the remake on the Game Boy Advance, you get to rescue from death all of these characters and do all this crazy shit.
So there are no stakes now.
Yeah.
So that's good for plot and drama. Next.
No, some are literally rescued from the afterlife. Like, they definitely died, but they get stuck in this weird purgatory, and one of them decides, no, I'm going to bust the fuck out of here, and they go and collect your other party members
All right.
and bring them back. It's pretty awesome. In
Interesting.
Final Fantasy II, the real 2, for the Game Boy Advance, you do play as dead characters in the afterlife who stay in the afterlife, but you then fight this demon that's trying to break out and murder your main party members.
That's kind of cool. That's one of the things that this is reminding me of. Is there's so many games that I've either not played at all, or haven't played enough. That there's just a lot of good shit out there already. It's like music, right? Like I've never sat down and listened to all of Led Zeppelin's albums.
Mm-hmm.
I should and could, and it would be good if I did. But I
couldn't good.
just don't got the time for that, right? But someday I will, and then I'll be like, wow, this is really good. Everybody was right. And then I'll say the same thing about, fucking any of the game, Goof Troop or whatever game you like. That's not on the list. Next.
All right. From this point forward, so next up is number 13, every single title was put into the top 25 by all of us. Of these last 13 games, one of them got voted number 17 once. One of them got voted number 16 once. One of them got voted number 15 once. One of them got voted number 14 once. And then the rest are all from 13 up. So it's a pretty huge block. Like these top 13 are what you would expect to be the top 13 in almost, I won't say anyone's list, but like a lot of fucking lists will have this same set of 13 at the top.
And that's not us being really smart. It's just the games being really good.
Yeah. All right. You ready for number 13?
I'm ready.
Here's the one whose placement might get us killed.
I'm ready.
All right. Number 13 is Earthbound.
Here's the thing. It was good. It's a cool game.
It was good.
I never beat it. I played 2/3 of it.
Mm-hmm.
I got to Zombie Town. And kind of was like, what the fuck's going on?
I know I got
emulating
at least
it. I lost interest.
I at least got to 4-side.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like watched videos about the rest, and I already knew about the ending with Gygus and Porky.
So
and all
it's
that
hard
stuff,
to judge a game if you haven't played the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I got as far as I did, and even that was like, okay, like I'm gonna do this. And this is back when I had a lot of time. You know, so I remember I would come home. It was a summer. My grandmother was watching us. I would emulate this on my fucking first or second ever family computer. And my family was pretty poor, so we never got computers. We got hand-me-down computers from my mom's friend who was an IT guy. So when everyone was doing Windows 98, we got a 386.
Whoa!
Right. So I was like, oh my god, DOS. Did you know you can do commands? And everyone's like, yeah, just make a folder in Windows and stuff. Start menu. And I'm like, oh, DOS. So it took me a while to be able to emulate. But when I could finally emulate, maybe 7th grade summer, I played Earthbound or something like that, 7th or 8th grade. And it's good. It's quirky, and I like that. And I think it gets darker as the game goes on, which I also like. But it didn't... our friend Alex loves Earthbound.
Yes.
Huge
if
boner for
we ever
Earthbound.
play Earthbound on this channel,
we got to get him.
Alex will be there in some capacity.
He directed the thing that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
Anyway, it just didn't grab me the same way. I can't explain it.
My thing with Earthbound is it is undeniably an excellent RPG. There's really no argument against it being an exceptionally well put together RPG that benefited really, really well from a very snarky translation team.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for the localization team,
Was Ted Woolley
which was
on that
one
team?
guy, was that?
Was it Ted Woolley?
I don't think it was Ted Woolley.
Ted Woolley's the one who did the original Final Fantasy VI translation.
Yeah.
And I think it's the best one yet.
Woolsey.
Woolsey? Sorry.
Or Woolsey? I think it's Woolsey. It might have been Woolsey.
Anyway.
Notable for putting a lot of really crisp humor into American translations of Japanese video games. It might have been Woolsey. There's actually a TV trope called Woolseyism, which is anytime a translation adds jokes to help fix a broken joke in another language.
Yep. Like
the
scene
jokes
in
were
Final Fantasy 3 where someone says where Kefka's trying to set a place on fire.
6. You mean?
Well, yeah. And Kefka's trying to set something on fire, and someone's like, "Wait!" He's like, "Wait," he says, "Do I look like a waiter?" As in, like, should I serve you food?
Yeah.
But that was fixing a pun in Japanese.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
Yeah, it's cool creative stuff that goes into those things. What are they fucking doing over there?
They're being adorable.
The cats are attacking the wall here.
Do you want to talk about your top 25?
Earthbound had an excellent localization by one guy on a very short time frame, if memory serves. But at the end of the day, while it is a lovely, quirky, very well put together, constructed, pop culturally very relevant, especially to Japan game, the quirks they get a little old after a while. A lot of the things that make it unique became frustrations for me as the game went on. And like it's tricky because like every RPG has unique things.
But it has magic and an absentee dad.
So it's just an Japanese RPG then.
I don't know, man.
Pokemon! Anyway. So, I don't know. It's... Man, if we were going off of story alone, this would have ranked a lot higher for me. If we were going off of memorability, this would rank very high for me, higher than it did. I put it...
I don't think you
for
mean
me,
story.
this was my number 12.
I
voted number 12.
General... theme.
Okay, yeah, maybe not story. The story is actually
happen.
The story is actually
last.
yeah. The story is actually very weak.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not criticizing you, but I know
not
what
as
you
weak.
mean.
There's just no story. You just kind of wander from town to town because
it's got a
there's
cool,
this thing that's gonna
weird
destroy the world.
vibe as you get further in.
Yeah.
You know, but it's,
maybe the tone is more.
Tone's the word I was looking for.
Tone is the one. Yeah,
theme.
tone. If it was on tone alone, that would be really good.
Because it goes from snarky to what?
And Mother 3, from my understanding, expands greatly on that, and tone is the overwhelming feature.
But
of
you know
Mother
what this
3.
means?
Yeah.
We didn't get to the end, so maybe the end blows your mind. Or
The end
something.
does blow your mind.
Yeah.
Are you not aware of how the game
I know
ends?
how it ends.
Okay.
And I asked Ian what his explanation was, and it basically boils down to fetus. So
it's so Earthbound is a great exploration on the pop culture, vision of a work taking over for the intended meaning of a work, because Shigesato Itoi has gone on record many times to say, like, 1, it's not meant to be a fetus. 2,
Sure.
it's not the movie that he saw that inspired it was not a rape scene. I don't know if you're aware of this. Part of the way that Gygas acts in the final battle was inspired by a movie that he saw accidentally as a kid. He wandered into the theater, and it was a scene of like it's a specific movie, like they've identified the movie, but it's like a cop that kills a woman and maybe has sex with her. It's confusing, but it wasn't an out and out like rape scene of a thing. Like it was like they had sex and then it was like, oh yeah, by the way, boing or something. But it was a fucked up scene that messed with him because the juxtaposition of pain and pleasure is very alien when they come together, which is why when you hurt Gygas, it says that it feels good in like really weird, elongated tones and stuff. Yeah. But he's gone on record to say that most of the theories about Gygas and the imagery around that final area are 100% wrong, but it's one of those rare instances where the fans have sort of said, no, you the creator are wrong about what you've made.
But here's the thing, I mean, like,
it's
Nintendo
so
and their squeaky clean PR team of lawyers, like,
that's the most baffling thing of all, that a game like this
if he's trying to save his job or his
it.
rep, like, he's not going to be like, yep, it's very rapey.
Yeah, but like it's 2016. The game the game is 20 years old. The game is, I'm going to look it up right now. The game is 21 years old.
Yeah, but
he's got nothing to lose.
You're right, because honor and reputation mean nothing in Japan.
That's true. Historically, they're worthless. Does Itoi still do video games at all?
I have no idea.
Like, is there a reason that he would not want to be open about it if people were right about the true nature of the game?
I don't know. But anyway, I'm just going to say, I think we should play it at some point to get a better, clear picture.
I think we absolutely should. I think that's one that I've been saving for basically when Sonic and Kirby are over, or Mega Man and Kirby over, whichever ones of those are over at the same time. Like, that's when we strike, maybe. And do some Earthbound. Next up on the list, number 12, another rare title, Donkey Kong Country 1, the original.
Yeah.
In my experience, I mean, a sort of spoiler, there's no way you could put Donkey Kong Country 1 on a list and not have Donkey Kong Country 2 also on the list. It seems like virtually everyone puts them in order of 2, 1, 3.
Yeah.
It is worth noting that Ian did not. He put them in the order of 2, 3, 1.
Idiot!
I think 3 and 1 are very comparable. I don't think there's any huge problem with having them.
I like 1 better because it doesn't have so much bullshit. It's just a game.
It's a very,
it's not, you don't have to find all the coins
game.
and find Funky Kong and Lady Kong and Cranky Kong and be a fucking weird professor.
Yep.
It's exactly what it wants to be. Donkey Kong Country is correct. You fight King Rool and he's just a king alligator or crocodile, and that's it. And, it just fits. I don't know how to, I'm not explaining it right, but the tone is what it should be. And there's not a lot of extra bullshit, and it's fun. And they put a lot of thought into the levels, and I just think it's a more cohesive experience to me than 3.
I think, it's all right. So I think we take for granted sometimes the actual level design. And when I say level design, I don't mean here's where the platforms are, but I mean the actual decor of a level, right? And if there is one game that really has that nailed down, it's the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, all 3 of them, really.
Yeah.
Where every level is meticulously crafted.
Artistically.
Yeah, very artistically. Like, I'm still to this day not even 100% sure how those levels are really constructed tile-wise. Because a lot of those games are made with tiles. They're not made with, like, full 3D structures or anything. But, like, especially as you get to 3, it almost seems like the whole stage is, like, drawn, and they just went, all right, here's where the solid parts are. But I think if you follow the course of the whole game through Donkey Kong Country 1 and Donkey Kong Country 3, 1 is more consistent throughout as here are the 2 monkeys, gorillas, apes, whatever family they fall into.
One's a gorilla, one's a chimp.
Yeah. As they go from the forest and they work their way through, thank you. As they work their way through, like here's the wilderness, but then they enter these more mechanized areas, and then they wrap around. All right, here's this other, wilderness area, but it's like dark and like the tone is way weirder and spookier. Yeah. And they get to all this more mechanized stuff at the end, and these oil drums, and it's a very consistent. Like you're traveling along this path. Donkey Kong Country 3 felt a lot looser with that. Like, the levels were more like, hey, why don't we just have one inside of a giant barn?
Yeah, and maybe I've definitely beaten DKC 3, but it didn't stick with me. It's not memorable in the same way the other 2 were for me.
Like, I remember bits and pieces of 3, but 1 is burned into my brain.
Right. There are so many, like, you can describe, there's a couple of, if I said, give me the 3 words that come to your brain when you think of DKC 1, you'd probably be like, natural, lush.
Ethereal.
Ethereal is a good one. Moody. There's dark moments, With DKC 2, you're like, oh, okay, like dramatic, pirates,
Let's talk about the music.
Bramble. We can get there in a second. But with DKC 3, no words come to mind. It's just a weird blur.
I mean, that's the thing is, I could not hum to you any themes from DKC 3. Not a single one.
Yeah, but I can hum to you all the themes from DKC 2 and a couple from DKC. Whoa, man. Whoa.
Sorry, I put a little DKC 2
a little too far in
DKC
there.
1. I'm
sorry. A little too far.
I'm sorry, the trumpets didn't come around till the second game.
But no, you're right. The music in those games is all awesome.
I will say, you know what? I lied. All right, the one... no, that was a DKC 2 one. Also, I was going to say the mini games. The... which was awesome. That got you fucking jazzed up for what was about to happen.
But it was like a little... But they do a great job. Like, the mood... You would think a game about monkeys would be goofy the whole time through, but not. There's a lot of texture to the mood. And there's good things and bad things, and there's dark moments and tense moments and good moments. The music is huge in that.
And so for what it's worth, in the briefest of possible explanations, Nintendo owns the Donkey Kong franchise. It was created by Nintendo back in the day for Donkey Kong, the arcade game. Rare got the rights to expand on it for Donkey Kong Country, but when Rare got bought by Microsoft, Nintendo retained the rights to the Donkey Kong entire universe. So all of that belongs to Nintendo, not Rare. I had a point to that, and I fucking forgot what it was. Shit. What were we just talking about? We were talking about
music.
We weren't talking about. Well, I mean,
we were. We just had a whole hum fest. That sounds real gay, doesn't it?
Had a home fest. Sorry. So what I was going to get at was that the closest handoff I can think of, Donkey Kong Country is filled a specific niche within Nintendo of this very naturalistic kind of game that it took until Pikmin, I think, for there to be a real handoff of that vibe to another game. Pikmin it's a very sci-fi sort of vibe, but it's you as these minuscule characters in this environment.
Right.
You're not all right, we're just marching through the woods, do whatever. It's atmospheric, that's the one. Not ethereal, atmospheric.
Your last 200 words are invalid. I just said the word atmospheric and got it.
That's kind of it. Donkey Kong, if you had to describe Donkey Kong Country in one word, atmospheric nails it completely.
It was so much deeper than a game about two monkeys needed to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
They could have just been it's fun, jump up and down. Instead, they were it feels like they wanted to make a work of art.
Can we talk about the intro?
Sure.
On that too? I think the intro is it's an excellent, it's a nod to its roots while also being hey, but it's the 90s. We gotta be cool.
Yeah.
So if you haven't played it, please play it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's you have Cranky Kong,
that goes
their
for all
grandfather, sitting there here. Bum, bum, bum. And he's got this little gramophone, which is the theme from the original Donkey Kong when a level starts, which is subtle because if you didn't play a lot of Donkey Kong for the arcade,
makes sense.
You might not
sounds
recognize
different.
It does sound different. They changed up the instrumentation on it a little bit.
Sure.
But that's the original one. And it's him just enjoying that, and then you hear bum bum bum. But on a boom, and you see Donkey Kong drop down with a boom box, and it's the 90s
moment.
Have arrived
to
this early 80s game.
Right.
I think
it's a cute little thing.
That's one of the
But even that is deceptive because it doesn't convey the layers that it also has.
Yes, yeah. It's a surprisingly deep game that a lot of people had fun with. Rare with Nintendo was such a magical pairing because Donkey Kong Country, I don't actually know if that was the first game.
What
but
even
from there
is
forward,
Rare now? Do they make shoes?
Rare is a subsidiary still of Microsoft. They don't make much. There's a reason most of their former developers now work at Playtonic making Yooka-Laylee, which we'll probably wind up playing at some point. But it opened this door where Rare and Nintendo could work together to make these amazing Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3, Conker's Bad Fur Day, which was originally another Conker game. I don't remember the name of it.
Banjo-Tooie, Diddy Kong Racing.
Yep, Diddy Kong Racing. They had there's one other. Donkey Kong 64 was it fit right in time.
DK64.
It's a weaker version of Banjo-Kazooie, I think. At the end of the day, it's Banjo-Kazooie trying to be Mario 64. They also had stuff like Perfect Dark. I think was also Rareware. The Rare Collection.
No, I think we actually, in explaining why we like Donkey Kong Country, we've explained why I don't like Donkey Kong 64. There's no layers to it. There's no tone to it. There's no mood or atmosphere. You're just here's 5 monkeys. Good luck.
All right. Donkey Kong Country, number, oh my God, where are we on the list? 12. There it is. I'm sure we'll have more to say about it real soon. Anyway, number 11 on the list. This is one of not many. Let's go with that. One of 3 where more than one person got the exact number right, which I think was kind of cool. And that's you and Ian both voted this as your number 11, and that was Tetris Attack.
Yeah.
I put this at 14, and the only reason I put it that low...
You love that game, too.
I love that game. If I put it in terms of favorites, it'd be way higher. But it's similar to Mario All-Stars. It's in terms of, as a game, where does it fall? And I think that puzzle games are inherently, in terms of game experience, a little lower than, say, adventure, RPG, platforming... Most games. The problem with puzzle games,
hard.
I love puzzle games, but at the end of the day, I know that if you're not into a puzzle game, you're not going to get into a puzzle game.
These are more the semantics of how we're judging the list, but I see what you mean.
If you're not into Zelda, you could be recommended a Zelda game and maybe get into it. But if you're not into puzzle games, you're not going to get into Tetris Attack.
But I think, I mean, you're probably right. But I think it's not that different than any other game. If I'm not into Zelda games, but someone makes me play a Zelda game, I'll probably come to enjoy it. If I'm not into puzzle games, but someone makes me play a good one, I might come to enjoy it.
I mean, that's true. There's got to be a name for that specific. So
Stockholm
Tetris Attack,
Syndrome.
Well, no.
Oh, no, sorry.
The genre of puzzle game, because there's Tetris Attack, but then you get stuff like Dr. Mario, Kirby's Avalanche, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
It's anything
like,
that's not Tetris?
Well, it's specific. Sonic Eraser technically fits into it too. It's a Tetris. The original Tetris also fits. It's like a box puzzle game or like a capsule.
I know what you
puzzle
mean.
Game. Like it's a very contained.
A shit falls from the sky puzzle game.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah,
Tetris 2 and Tetris Blast also
really it's
did
an
it.
arrangement game.
And you guys ever played Tetris 3D on
For
the
Virtual
Boy?
Yeah, I had that.
That's a surprisingly solid game.
Yeah, it was cool. It took me a while to get into it because I'm like, fuck.
Like I was a fan
now
of Tetris.
I have to think in this many dimensions.
I was a fan of Tetris as a kid, and I played Weltris on CD-ROM from like Jukebox CD.
Okay.
And that included like it was a sort of 3D version of Tetris that wasn't very good.
So you're saying you had all the ladies?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And it was one of those games where you had to answer a quiz question to play the golf game that came with it. Yeah. But even I looked at 3D Tetris and was like, I don't know, guys, and it was like really good. I was pleasantly surprised. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good. I played that a bunch.
But so Tetris Attack.
I thought it was cool, and you know what it was? They did a good job of making what felt at the time like a really Nintendo puzzle game.
Yes,
because they integrated the Yoshi stuff. They didn't
pretty seamlessly, I think.
Yeah, like there was no story or whatever, but like they just did a good job. Like it is just a paint job, but boy, was it a paint job! The characters, the sounds, everyone had different things going on. Like
I think this is the game because they had done it before, but I think this is the game that codified that if you were playing a Mario game, you were probably, but not always, going to be playing a platform game. If you were playing a Yoshi game, you were going to play a puzzle game. Because there was Yoshi and Yoshi's Cookie on the Game Boy. But I think Tetris Attack was really what sealed it as like, Yoshi is probably going to be like a puzzle.
Right up until Yoshi
thing.
Story.
I mean, I'd say Yoshi Story had a lot of puzzle elements to it. Like, if you wanted to get a perfect run, if you wanted to get a 30 melon run, you really had to go out of your way.
Is that a bra size?
Yeah.
Anyway.
30 melon. Take that as you will, size-wise. How big do you think it is? It like the size of a melon, or is it the size where someone looks at it and calls them melons?
Bra size is the 34 refers to the strap width or something like that, and then the B refers to the cup size.
Right. The idea.
Right. So it's 30
melon. Two guys trying to.
Hey.
Well, no,
I've seen some bras.
If I remember, if I got this right, the number is the measurement in centimeters of the band, and then the cup is. Starting with A being
small
0, how many centimeters out the cup has to go for it to be like comfortable, basically.
You're probably right.
I think. I'm not sure.
I stopped
Ladies,
studying
I know
that far.
We actually have a couple of like some of our more active our most active fans right now are actually ladies, women, girls.
So please let us know how this shit works.
I always feel like I can never really feel confident in the choice of word to use for.
It's because you're reaching for bitches, but you don't want to say it.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, you know what it is? I can look at a bunch of male people and go, guys.
Yeah.
And that's easy.
But it sounds forced to say gals.
Gals sounds weird. Ladies
yeah.
sounds weird. Women sounds like, yes, you're all 38 or older and you're looking into refinancing your mortgage. But if I say girls, and it's like, oh, you're all 19 or younger, and that's
God. It. As a well-to-do white man in the tech industry, we sure have a lot of problems involving women.
We sure do. It's hard to be a white, straight guy.
Yeah, exactly.
From a middle-class upbringing.
Yeah. Fucking, where's our appreciation month?
Every month is a middle-class white guy appreciation month.
Anyway, let's talk about something else.
Jesus Christ. Let's move to the next game. For what it's worth, Tetris Attack, before we move on, like every single mode has a bonus version of it that you can earn by beating it normally, which is pretty fucking cool.
What? Tetris Attack is evolving. It's Pokemon Puzzle League.
Actually, yeah,
Yeah.
Pokemon Puzzle League had cylinder mode, which was really cool.
Oh, I never saw that.
Yeah, so it's basically if you took Tetris Attack and you made it so that this column was attached to this column, that's cylinder mode, and they just literally wrapped it around. It's an N64 game. It has Ash, not Red. It's one of the few Pokemon games that features Ash, actually. There are very few that do that.
Yep.
And yeah, they have regular mode, but they also have cylinder mode. They call it like Tower, I think, but
cool.
it wraps around like Tetrasphere. Also, a really enjoyable N64 game. We are now into our top 10. This is it. This is the top 10 games that we have chosen here. From this point forward, to give you the update on the stats, there is one number 12 vote, there's one number 11 vote, and that's it. The rest
Otherwise,
are all
we're
10
all
or better.
agreed.
We are pretty much in lockstep for this top 10.
Nice.
Number 10 is not the... All right, I was going to say it's the first HAL game, but it's not because Earthbound was also co-developed by HAL. It's the first exclusively HAL-developed game.
Mm-hmm.
One that we are very, very close to playing,
Yes.
actually, on the channel, and that is Kirby's Dream Land 3.
Yeah. You know,
which is just the fucking most adorable game on the entire system.
so
783 games. If you had to ask what the cutest one was, Kirby's Dream Land 3 in a heartbit.
that reminds me, does anyone in the audience know or like...
Yoshi's Island would be a close second, though, for what
Does
it's
anyone know or like Spike McFang? Does Twisted Tales of Spike McFang? I always wanted to play that as a kid, but I never did.
Spike McFang?
Yeah, he's like a cartoon vampire kid RPG
That sounds
for Super
familiar.
NES. And I never got to play it. I always did. So anyway, back to the game in hand, which is
Dreamland 3.
when I got... So I rented, back in the day, we rented games because we were
This by the
ancient.
way was the only one in the top 10 that I voted below top 10. It was my number 11.
Gotcha.
My number 9 didn't make it on the list at all, which is why
Yep.
it wound up like that.
So Kirby's Dream Land 3.
Yeah.
I had rented Kirby Superstar and fell in love with it. And Mom was like, okay, it's your birthday. Like, let's go to the store and get you any game you want. And I was like, awesome, thank you.
Was this the $50 day?
No, that's Mega Man 5.
Oh, that's right.
That's a different
yes, yeah.
story.
Yeah.
I have 2 stories, and this is the second one. Let me get there.
He's only got 2 guys.
I've only got 2. Let me have this. So we get there, and I'm like, and it turns out like I couldn't go. I was like, it's okay, Mom, just get me the Kirby game that's out right now. And she comes home with Kirby's Dream Land 3. And I'm like, fuck, I wanted Kirby Superstar. And she's like, well, that was the only one that was there. And
I feel like it's the game that is just like Wind Waker in terms of you look at the game and go, oh, fucking
right,
come on.
Right. And I was like, I already really love the art design of Kirby Superstar, too. That's a cute game. That's
Yeah.
a very tightly put together game.
Yes, it is.
And I loved that game. So I was kind of bummed that I got Kirby's Dream Land 3. But after I was like, well, I'm going to fucking play it. I own it now. So I played it, and a couple, like, you know, I played the first level and whatever. It was easy. And then I played the second level. And after a while, I was, like, really into it. And then by the end, I was like, the art is awesome. The art is a huge benefit. The fact that it's different is really nice.
If you're not familiar with it, Kirby's Dream Land 3 is literally the only game that I can think of that's got this art style. And the fact that we can say a Super Nintendo game with an art style is already putting it literally into like one of the only probably like maybe 5 games that even
it looks
that.
watercolored.
I would say that it looks like colored pencil.
Sure.
Which
I don't
is
know art.
Either of those, really, I can't think of any other game that does that even today. The only other game that even comes close to that on the Super Nintendo is Yoshi's Island, which had a very like markery kind of feel.
Yeah.
But this one has literally like there are points in the game like in the closing credits if you actually whether you get 100% or not, you get this closing sequence of the artist character of the game, Ado, I think. Is it Adeline?
Something like that. Painted.
It's either Ado or Adeline. They switched between the two, and they're maybe the same character. But it's that character drawing art of the characters of the game, but it's them drawing, colored pencil style art of everybody. And the individual levels, everything's kind of moving a little bit, and it's all kind of breathing a little bit. And like,
I love that. I'm like, yeah, it looks like watercolors. And then you're like, no, it's colored pencils. And then you're like, the painter at the end of the game
well, the character
makes them look like colored pencils, not painting. No, yeah.
They are a painter. They carry a paintbrush. But
and I'm sure they bust out the color. No, it's
they
fine.
do.
Just,
I don't know.
It's fine. But it's an awesome game. It looks beautiful.
The theme, the visual theme of the game is 100% complete, solid, and at no point do you like go, well, that doesn't look right.
But there's also, they do a good job too. It's a little deeper than Superstar in this regard, tone wise or atmosphere wise. Kind of like we were talking about with Donkey Kong Country. There's some sad moments in the game. You need to save or help a person at the end of every level, and usually you fuck up and you don't, and then they
Because
just
you
give you
don't
this
know
horrified
sometimes.
look. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a puzzle. And they just give you this horrified look, and like depending on the ending, like it's dark matter extending and taking over everything. And it's not about King Dedede stealing food.
the second
It's
game-
about the whole your home being corrupted, and it's they
the
do a
second
job of
game-
taking it seriously.
It's the second game in the Dark Matter trilogy. The first one's Kirby's Dream Land 2. The third one is Kirby 64. But the middle one always struck me as being the darkest, weirdly enough, because, like, while, yes, it is a colored pencil, pastel, lighthearted kind of thing, if you the whole point of the game is that Dark Matter is extending its reach into every corner of the planet, and it's up to you to literally make everyone happy so that you can fight this, because its influence, like the influence of Earthbound and Mother 3, is literally just ruining people's lives.
I don't want to say somber, but it's
not morose. It's
no.
like it's just.
There's a word here that we're failing to get because
Yeah.
we're getting tired. But
I almost want to say that it's just serious, which is weird for a Kirby game.
yeah,
Like you get to the end and there's a character
It
and
feels
they had a real
significant.
issue. Yeah, significance good. Like there's a real situation. Like there's an issue that they're dealing with, and you come in to help, but it's
Yeah.
like. I
now
don't know.
that I think about it, we're gonna have to talk about this more when we're playing it because
Absolutely.
it might rival Superstar a lot more closely than I
It
gave
does.
it credit
Well, I
for.
mean, it's really, and we're going to get into this kind of debate as we get further up the list, but Kirby's Superstar and Kirby's Dream Land 3 are almost equal in my mind in terms of like what makes a good game and what makes a solid game. And the difference is Kirby Superstar is a collection of smaller games and Kirby's Dream Land 3 is one game.
right?
The first that they've done since Dreamland 2.
Mm-hmm.
Everything up until that point was a mini game style game, a spin-off, or a collection style game.
Yeah, and
so
man, they really did a good job.
They really kicked ass with that. Dreamland 3 is fantastic.
All right, next.
All right, next up. Okay, number 9 on our list. I think that, so everything up until now has been like questionable. Like, yeah, that's probably on the list. Like, I think Earthbound is the only one below this point that if we did it, I was talking to John about it on the ride. And it's like, yeah, we haven't finished it, but if we make a list of the top anything number of Super Nintendo games and we don't have Earthbound, people will fucking kill us. Like,
Maybe.
you cannot have a top. I mean, if we had a top 10 list, there might be a way for it to like at least get the honorable mention there. if
Top
not-
10, I would be fine with not putting it on
Yeah,
there.
it's a close enough call.
Come at me, bro.
That's
this is
like-
America.
Top 15 though, yeah, it's probably gonna make its way in there still. Number 9 though, it's hard to. We're at the point where you can't really make an argument for it not to be in a top 10 list, and that is Super Mario World, the
Super
original,
Mario World,
the launch title.
the launch title. That game's great.
Yeah,
Fucking wall to wall. That whole game is good. And then you get to Star Road, and you're like, holy shit.
yeah.
That for
Fucking-
me is what I remember most.
Was it gnarly or tubular? The one that had the fucking pea balloons.
Can we just talk about how it's fucking cowabunga, gnarly, tubular, awesome, rat? Like, the fact that they just
The
do that,
only one
I
that
love it.
mattered was the pea balloon one where you're floating around fighting the fucking charging chucks throwing baseballs.
Oh, I like that one.
Oh, I wanted to die every time I tried to do that.
Sometimes my brain like gets into these weird challenges, and I like to.
I
get
like
through
them,
it.
but fuck. And then the worst part is if you manage to so you get to Star Road,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to the bonus areas, which has the Super Famicom logo in it, which I always thought was kind of cool. If you beat all 8 ridiculously difficult levels that are in there, your reward is every Koopa turns into this weird fucking demented
Weird
version
Mario!
of Mario.
What? Yeah.
Round head, little shrinky dink body.
You know,
No.
that might
No.
have contributed to my feeling like I have this. I'm not sure how it really breaks out, but I feel like Japan, because of video games, Japan was really how I first understood that there were different countries with different people and different cultures.
The fact that they could release that game and be fine with it, and then it comes here, and you look at that and go,
and you're like, wait. And the fact that they all turn into Marios sometimes when you win was just like, okay, Japan's a little different. Like, okay, that's good. I like that. I'm into it.
So that was your game that did it. The game that did that to me, the game that really like struck me in the heart and said, wow, there is some major cultural difference.
Different dudes made this.
Was Game Boy Camera.
Oh, yeah.
If you have ever been so unfortunate as to wind up on one of those error screens.
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh
man.
My fucking God.
Yeah, that's the Sonic CD secret screen. Oh, we didn't talk about those.
We really didn't. We should have talked about that.
Fuck.
The one where it's like, with like this melting mustache face.
Oh, man.
With a Sonic body like, kill me.
Yeah.
On Sonic, all right, so Game Boy Camera, if you're not familiar,
it's a weird thing.
So
it's a
Game Boy Camera was a game that straight up came with proprietary hardware, not just software, but hardware. And if you're coming with hardware, there are going to be bugs. Mm-hmm. There's really no way to get around that 100%. So they had to figure out error handling. And you can't necessarily just throw them back to some menu without just being like, oh, shit, you're just there now. So their solution in Japan was, hey, if there's an error, we'll go to the screen that says, hey, there was an error, and we'll throw a silly picture with one of our main developers with a bunch of like, oh, we fucked with our picture, yada, yada, on there. But the thing is, one thing that Japan, in my experience as a gamer who's never been to Japan, but only through the pop cultural bubble, one thing that Japan seems to find hilarious is slightly uglified, mutated versions of people. Japan seems to find that generally funny.
Crossing over into generalization and
Orientalist
territory, but yes.
It's definitely a generalization. I'm not saying everybody does, but like it seems like the general mood is like, that doesn't look like it's supposed to, kind of thing. But like,
I think it's a fascination with it. I don't think it's necessarily a positive thing.
We come to the States with that, and it's like it is a straight up like boom, denied. Like this is uncanny valley, and we hate it. So when you get one of those Game Boy Camera errors, it is a little scary, a little fucking horrifying. And it's like at the end of the day, you can like nowadays I can look at it and be like, wow, that's a weird picture of someone with a whole bunch of boop-a-doop freckles and like a sad face and a unibrow and like bald head, and it's like whatever. But as a kid, I looked at him and like, I don't get it.
Yeah. That reminds me, in my hoity-toity 4-year liberal arts college, I had the privilege of taking a bunch of cool Japanese literature classes.
Yeah.
And we talked about how it seems like, and some of them talked about modern culture too, how like if you chart out the uncanny valley, there's like slight differences in where it sits culturally for Japan and America.
I believe that.
So
I would absolutely believe that.
That does sort of ring true.
I think there are certain properties that ring stronger for one than the other.
Sure.
Because that's kind of the assumption is that different cultures are going to respond different ways to different things.
Like James Franco's body pillow. Kumiko-chan. Kumiko-chan.
Anyway,
we should probably
Mario World.
Oh, we're still on Mario World.
We are.
Wow.
It is if you put them all together, every single one, Super Mario World is almost certainly the single best launch title of any console.
You know what? It sure beats the shit out of Pilot Wings. Sucks.
Can we just
call this video Pilot Wings Sucks?
For its worth, the Super Nintendo launch was Super Mario World, Gradius 3, F-Zero, Pilot Wings, and SimCity. Those are the 5 titles that came out at launch, the day of launch with the Super Nintendo in the United States.
Yeah.
There were others in Japan that hadn't gotten localized yet, so they got delayed. Amazingly, A Link to the Past is one of the first games that came out on the Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
You would look at that game, you'd think like, wow, that was probably like 94, 95. No, 90, like
that was
early 92.
Probably within a month of launch.
I think that was actually I think it was April 92.
Okay.
And the system came out in the States in August of 91. Like that was
I didn't even think it was that long, but that's cool.
8 months between the two. But yeah, Super Mario World might just be the greatest launch title ever made.
Yeah.
And the only argument I could see against that is maybe the original Mario Brothers on the NES.
No, that game is super flawed.
It's very flawed.
Great.
I think
it's
the
flawed.
issue is it tightened a lot of the weaknesses
Yeah.
of like the Atari, the Commodore, the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, all of those like home PC.
The Super Nintendo
You know.
really was the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
They took the ambitions and goals and dreams they had in creating the software for the NES, but were held back so drastically by technical limitations. But compared to the NES, the Super Nintendo was a dreamboat. So
the
they
NES
they weren't able to make something crazy new like Mario 64.
Yeah.
So they had to superify their original vision, and it could handle that. So they could make the games they wanted and get a little weird with it.
Looking at it now, it seems like the NES was basically the best imaginable version of the original home consoles. And when I say that, I don't mean like, from 1983 to 1989-ish. I don't remember. No, I guess it would have had to last. It would have had to last a little longer than that because the Super Nintendo didn't come out here till 91. But compared to the Atari, Commodore, all of those, the graphical limitations of the first year of the NES were very similar to stuff like Atari. Like if you look at Mario 1 and Mario 3, it's the same console, but Mario 3 is
Totally
just like
different.
galaxies ahead
Yeah.
of Mario 1 in terms of graphical like layout and structure and all that. Super Nintendo took that and it perfected the craft of video gaming for Nintendo, where it was like, look, we learned a lot about how to condense down a lot of this stuff and make a really nice looking. Mario 3 is one of the best looking games on the NES. And they went, what if we made a system that is the norm? That's the baseline standard. Everything has to look at least that good.
Right.
And this is what the Super Nintendo was. And Super Mario World was a perfect example of like, we are effortlessly making a game that looks better than the single best looking NES game.
And I think that's where maybe what I was trying to say before
And
is,
play is better too. It was a much more responsive, tight controls too.
and because they had that power, because they were not hitting so many walls and ceilings with the hardware, it allowed them to be a little weirder and more creative. So we see a lot of our series come into their personalities here too.
Yes.
So Mario World, again, fucking you beat the Star Road and everyone turns into a weird, creepy Mario guy.
Mhm.
And
At the end of the day, on the NES, the Mario series, it has a shitload of notoriety now. And back in the day, it was influential because it was a very well-crafted platforming game. But platforming games in the 80s and the very start of the 90s were a dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
Platforming was the king from like about 86 to like 94.
Yeah, like when a toy company made some new brand, they were like, throw it in a video game. We want a video game.
Cool Spot. Whoa.
Right,
Like,
and now it's a platformer.
yeah.
Nobody
all that
was
shit.
like, let's make a Cool Spot
uh,
RPG. Actually, didn't they do that?
No, they didn't. They made Cool Spot was a platforming game
Yeah,
on the
no, I know.
Genesis, I want to say, and Yonoid on the Genesis as well. Like there was a lot of, and then there was like Mick Kids on the NES. There was a lot of licensed shit. None of them ever stacked up to the simple, well-crafted goodness of Mario 1. I don't know. I think that the Super Nintendo basically mandated that, look, if you're going to make a game for the system, you have to have a clear idea for what the game is meant to be.
I mean, the hardware was better.
Yeah, the hardware was way better, and
Like,
that helped a lot. Mode 7 was
capitalism
excellent.
is what made it so that they started all looking better.
I think the official Nintendo seal of quality is one of the best things they ever did. They had very draconian practices for what would count as
That
as a game
eliminated
on the
bugs,
system,
but I can't tell you how many shit games have that seal of quality, at least on the NES.
On the NES, yes. The Super Nintendo, they are
Milo's
way
Secret
less.
Castle, ha!
Yeah, it's a terrible one. I mean, Super Nintendo was not. I will always and forever. I would be shocked if there is ever a game that I find as repugnant, repulsive, awful, terrible as Bebe's Kids on the Super Nintendo.
Oh boy, I never
It is
played
literally,
that, but I've heard it's a junk fire.
in my mind, it is the absolute worst video game.
Really wasn't psyched about
made
Fester's
for,
Quest either.
Worse. I've played Fester's Quest. It's worse.
Fester's Quest is at least a game.
Bebe's Kids I bought for a friend of mine. So when I want to say I was probably like 9, maybe 10. No, I was younger. I was probably like 7, maybe 8. All right. I had my best
9,
friend.
10, 7, 8. I was an age.
I had a best friend up until I was about 9. We had a big falling
Is
out
this the one?
around the time I switched schools around the same time. and then went to a different school. So it would have been before I was 9 or 10, so probably like 8. For his birthday, I wanted to buy him a video game. He was the one who introduced me to A Link to the Past the first time. His game got a lot of dust on it, so it didn't always work great, so he got really pissed off at it, but I don't know, not to the extent of fucking your guy, but he definitely got mad to the point where...
Isn't this the friend who beat the shit out of you?
Yes.
So I think he got a little madder than my guy.
Well, not because of a video game. I'll tell that story in a second. I'll tell that story in a second. We were playing A Link to the Past one day, and we went to go plug it in, and I was like, all right, I'll go put it in. And I took the game and I put it in the console and turned it on, and it turned to like a green screen, which happened with those old systems. Any old cartridge-based system, there was a chance, even if you...
One piece of dust, it would do that sometimes. It was not a big deal.
It would just give you a solid color screen. You just turn it off, take it out, put it back in, turn it on again. It's usually a connection to one of those little 32... I don't think it was 32, but like little pieces. He was insistent that I fucking destroyed his game. I was like, what do you just watch, ready? And I turned it off and I plugged it in again, and it like turned to a different screen. It was like flickering. I was like, give me a... Plugged it in and it worked. And we continued from the dark world, and it was like there. Like he was ready to fucking kick me out of his house. He was so convinced that I had ruined his game.
Yeah. Is this after you bought him BB's Kids?
This was before.
Okay.
Then I bought him Bebe's Kids because...
And then he beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, maybe because of Bebe's Kids. I bought it for him because I think I was at like a Blockbuster, and we were just looking at games. I'm like, he's got that, he's got that, he's got that. He doesn't have that. I don't recognize the rest of this, so I'll just give it to him. It turned out to be a horrible game.
Horrible.
The worst.
It's a bad game.
So, unrelated probably to this, you know, when you're 8, when you're 9, especially as a boy, I don't know if you know, any of the
feelings.
I don't know if any of the girls out there, any of the ladies out there,
unexpected times,
got into the same sort of shenanigans. But when I was 8 or 9, as a boy growing up in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is basically a pile of dirt that is occasionally paved and covered in bricks,
and sorrow,
a little sorrow. We're not Lynn. They really capitalize on the sorrow. I rode the bus to school and from school, and on the way back from school one day, as kids do, they were talking about, oh, I can beat you up. No, I can beat you up. Oh, I can beat you up. I can beat you up. Like, shit the kids talk about all the time. And even kids that I literally got into fist fights with as a kid, like, we would talk about, like, oh, I could beat you up. Yeah, but you didn't beat me up last week. Yeah, because I wasn't trying. Like, whatever. It's just like machismo, whatever shit as a kid. So I turned to my best friend, Danny Witz. That's his name. Danny Witz.
We got his name now.
He's probably a perfectly whatever normal regular guy now. We're all idiots when we're that age.
Gonna find him.
But so I know where he lives still. He still lives in the same place he did when we were kids.
Strike two.
But one day we're on the bus and we're talking about like, oh,
I thought this was America. Come at me, bro.
And I turned to him and was like, oh yeah, well I could beat you up. He was like, no, you can't. I was like, yeah, I could. I was like, all right, fine. As a 9-year-old. Even as an adult, if someone said to me, I'm like, okay, that conversation ended. We're done with that part. Cool. I get off the bus. I got my backpack full of books and shit. And even fucking that age, they give you a lot of books, you know? So I'm walking up the street. So we have the street. This is where the bus drops us off, at the intersection between our road and like the main road. I live probably about 120 yards up the street. Up a little bit of a hill on the right. Mm-hmm. He lives immediately on the left. Like, first house on the left is his house, and then attached to that is one of his parents' house. Like, they lived in an attachment. So I'm walking up, and I was like,
for telling unnecessary details and long stories.
I'm flavoring it. I walk up, and I get to about the point in the street where his house is on the other side, and all of a sudden, I'm just walking. Boom, face to the ground, flipped over. And
your face to the ground.
Yeah.
From behind you.
Yeah, from behind. All of a sudden, I am, boom,
you don't realize what's happening.
Yeah, it hasn't occurred to me yet.
I wasn't even
and I
there.
get rolled over.
Do you want me to just tell the story for you? Yeah.
He, at the time, he was probably like 20 pounds heavier than me, which doesn't sound like much, but as a kid, that's a big difference.
Yeah,
like it really, like right now,
that's a fifth of a kid.
I'm
a
about
quarter of a kid.
I'm about 200 pounds. If a 220 pound guy sits on my chest, I can go fucking there, like
right,
whatever. But if you're like 80 pounds
and 100 pounds
and 100 pounds, that's a bigger difference.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was how much we weighed. I don't
It's fine.
know. But he is like punching me mostly in the stomach. Actually, he didn't go for the face. I don't know why. The face would have been the more. If you were really trying to prove that you were definitely able to win in a fight, you go for the face.
Maybe he was still thinking, "No, we're friends. I won't go for his face."
I mean, maybe that's true.
You know?
That could be it. And I took it harder than I should have for a guy whose best friend decided to like ambush and assault him one day after school. But my mom ran a daycare at the time, and she was sitting in the driveway just looking down the street because she always kind of went out because all the buses were coming in around that time.
Yeah.
And she saw this, and all like I'm getting punched in a couple different places, and all of a sudden I hear like, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" Like, and she just grabs him by the shoulders and like throws him. Swing. You guys have never seen my mom or met my mom. You, I think, may have met my mom once or twice. She's not a big woman. She's actually a very slight kind of lady.
8.
Yeah, he was 8, but she like chucked him. Like he went into the air. Like, granted, that's fucking mom strength. Like,
That's awesome.
There's really no comparing mom strength. If you're in trouble and your mom is there to like be like, "You're gonna die, I have to help you," there's like Hulk fucking power on that.
Yeah. So what happened after all that?
I literally don't think I ever talked to him again.
Probably, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the last time I said anything to him, and it was me with my hands in front of me going, "What are you doing?"
At least you can rest easy knowing that you gave him BB's kids.
I gave him the
and
worst
he was within his rights
video
to beat
game,
the shit out of you.
my personal worst video game of all time.
Yeah.
I gave to him by accident. I thought it would be okay. It was not.
He doesn't forget.
Yep.
Danny Witz doesn't forget.
Danny
I'll
Witz does
find
not
you.
forget.
I'll find you.
Super Mario World.
Ian texted and said one of his only memories with our dad is playing Super Mario World together.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, next game.
Really, at the end of it, you can't argue. Mario World is iconic, and it's the baseline of.
But
if you
it's still fun. I still like playing it even now.
If you had to draw a line where good games and bad games on the Super Nintendo, Mario World is that line. It is a very good game, but if it's not at least that good, then it's probably not a good game.
That's fair. I think it's. I see what you mean. You can interpret what you said in a negative way, but that's not how you meant it.
You can't at least compare it to Mario World in terms of quality.
If it's not at least as good as Mario World, it's probably okay. I'll give you that.
All right.
Cool.
Next. Number 8. I think we're at number 8. Yeah, we're number 8. This is... So, from here on out, after this...
I wish I had waited for your statistics to start the drum roll.
After this, every single vote that we gave was at least 8 or better.
Wow.
So Ian gave this his number 12. I gave this a 6. This is actually way near the top. You gave it an 8. And that is Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Conquest. We talked about this a lot earlier. It kind of perfects what Donkey Kong Country was trying to do.
Yeah.
It really refined a lot of the looser pieces.
Gameplay is tighter.
Yep.
Mood is moodier.
Yep.
I like Dixie as an addition.
Dixie was
changes
great.
the gameplay a lot.
Yes.
Not a lot, but enough.
If you don't main as Dixie, you're playing that fucking game wrong.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Diddy's not hard mode, but it's like a little more challenging if you can't just
faster.
fly.
He's a lot faster.
I do actually like
nimble.
playing as Diddy because of that.
But if you're dealing with the more complicated platforming sections, especially ones with gaps, like any of the jungle ones where you're like hanging from vines, you need Dixie because she can just like, fuck. There we go. We're there. We're okay.
But it's like cool to play. Like it's extreme mode to play as Diddy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and I like the whole pirate theme. They don't do it. It's not tacky the way they do it. You know what I mean? Like it fits.
Well, they only do it for a little while. Well, all right. I was gonna say they do it for a little while, but the theme is actually prevalent through the whole game. But in less and less ways, like
they have like you go to a swamp bayou level.
The second level is a volcano, and the boss is a giant cutlass.
Yeah,
like
which is cooler than it sounds.
It really is. He's actually probably
he's awesome, yeah.
Based on the skill level you're expected to have at that point in the game, he's probably one of the hardest in the whole game.
Yeah, that's true. He's a big jump.
He's
from where
very
you're at.
fast, and you have to platform incredibly quickly on hooks to get across.
And they introduce a lot of the bonus features in that game but they're not annoying yet.
Yeah.
You know, you have I think you have to collect the big gold coins, but that's it.
Yep.
You know, you don't have to collect
They don't do
those
the
and then the
mini-games
other
things,
coins
yeah.
and then the other
3 added mini games where you collected the DK tokens to get they.
Oh, now maybe I'm a liar because I think there's the giant DK coin.
Yeah, but they were just hidden in the levels.
Right. But
In
that means there are
3
2 types of coins.
Yeah, there's the little coins that you can just use to mostly buy hints from Granny.
Yeah, the banana coins
from Granny Kong.
Yeah.
No, it was Wrinkly Kong.
Okay.
And I think you could buy hints from Cranky Kong too, but the DK coins were what you needed to get into the last area.
Right, because there's 1 in each level, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, I really like the game. The music is fucking awesome.
Yeah, music is excellent. I think that's where you get Sticker Brush Symphony. Is from that one. That's the one where you ride with the parrot whose name I forget. Squawks. You ride under Squawks, and it's all these bramble things here. For what it's worth, fun fact: the most iconic music from that entire game, which is that one, Sticker Brush Symphony, is I'm probably naming that wrong. That might not be the real name of it. That's the name of the Smooth the Groove.
Okay.
Cover of it, but that might not be the real name of the actual track. It was actually meant to be an underwater theme, but then they they didn't make any underwater levels in the whole, no real underwater. Donkey Kong Country 1 had a couple levels where you were entirely underwater the entire time.
Okay.
In 3, they had 1 or 2 where you were underwater the entire time. 2,
yeah,
there
most
are
of
none.
them rise.
In number 2, you're in a barn level, usually a hot water level. Where it's oh, we got to do the thing. Oh, shit, it's hot water. We can't be in it now. Oh, okay, we're going to go back in. But, that, bum, 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 bum.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'll have to play it for you later. But,
Yeah.
if you listen to that theme, it makes sense as a water level. Because, there's a lot of, bubbly sounding bits to it. But
the way they reused it for the air is really cool.
yeah, the way they used it for that, that level, I don't
Is it
even
the
know
Bramble level? I feel
Yeah.
like it's the Bramble level.
I don't even know if it's multiple levels. I think it's just that one level.
There's a couple of Bramble levels.
And
I
it's
assume they use the same
arguably,
thing.
I mean, there's a lot of mini games that do it, but I don't know if there's more than one level.
We'll have to
really
play it and find out.
Yeah.
Ba-da-da-ba-ba-ba. We've
There's-
actually already talked about DKC2 a lot.
We
already.
did a lot.
So-
The fact that level sticks out so much among all levels of all Super Nintendo video games is one of the main reasons this ranks so high.
Yeah.
It is so iconic.
Yep.
Every little piece of that between he's not between Pirate King K Rool to this the bramble areas with your animal buddies to
the animal buddies in that game.
and the guy that's made of a waistcoat throwing fucking boxes at you there's so many pieces of that game that just live with the Super Nintendo forever.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to say it. It's oh man, I had something but it's gone.
I like that King K. Rool always, his final battle always gave a hint to what the next game was going to do. In Donkey Kong Country, he's a king, but you fight him on a pirate ship.
Okay.
In Donkey Kong Country 2, he's a pirate captain, but you fight him in this mechanized, you fight him in this mechanized area. And then in Donkey Kong Country 3, he's a mad scientist.
Where do you fight him there?
You fight him in a mechanized area there too.
Okay.
But I mean, Donkey Kong 64 had a lot of mechanized stuff going on there too. And then he was in the King's. Oh no, he was in a boxing gear for that. That was the big thing, was boxing for that one.
Yeah,
but
he never made it a Smash.
It's a shame. I think he's, of all Nintendo related characters, he's probably one of the most obvious ones that's really missing from that roster.
I guess so. Or you could make the same argument for Ridley or Kraid or something.
Ridley and Kraid are too big. Sakurai actually addressed that directly in the lead up to Smash 4.
No, they're too
He was
big, fuck you.
They're too big, they don't make sense. Ridley maybe, but he's so huge that it's hard to make work. Kraid just does not.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, anyway, DKC2, awesome. I've been itching to play it lately.
Yeah, same.
And
there's a high likelihood that in 2017 you'll be seeing some Donkey Kong Country out of us.
The spider was a cool animal companion too.
Yeah.
That one is pretty memorable
cool.
for me.
I like him. I remember still the lava level where you got to use
Snake. He debuted in DKC2.
Springs?
I don't remember his name, but Snake Man.
Yeah, he was good on the level that was like a pirate ship still, and you had to just really go way the fuck up. And
Yeah, and that game is fast. It's like there's some parts where you have to stop and think and be careful, but like like overall you can kind of like move quickly and it's good.
My only big gameplay regret with the entire Donkey Kong Country series, and 2 does this also, is your sprite is very large. Not like crazy big, but for a home console game, it's pretty fucking big. And because it's all rotoscoped and 3D-ified, it's not always entirely clear where the boundaries are. What your hitbox is, where the edge of a platform is.
I think they do a good job of mitigating it, but that is a valid concern.
They generally do it very well, but every once in a while you're like, I was on that. Come on.
That's fair. But how many times we say that to every game?
It's true, but they're like Donkey Kong Country is one where you can watch yourself phase.
It's the same problem we were talking about in Mighty Number 9, except Mighty Number 9 has it a lot worse.
That's true.
But yeah, next. What's next?
All right, so we're up to what, number 7, I think?
I don't know, man. You're math boy.
Yeah, number 7. So this one is one where the tone and the vibe really rings through on it. It's very solid, and that's Super Mario World 2: Yoshi's Island.
Oh, I love that game.
Do
you remember the moment when you fucking finally got to the last boss, and the music is perfect, and he's way in the background, and he comes up, and he's little, and then he gets big. Yeah.
Like, that's the first electric fucking guitar I think I ever heard on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it's
and you just
so
watch it
good.
like, oh, cool, I'm fighting Baby Bowser, no big deal. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna make him big, and it's like, oh, he's getting really big. Shit. And then you bust out of the final area. You're on the roof of Bowser's castle, and it's like, oh, that's fucking Godzilla Bowser in the background. Oh, fuck.
Kamek comes into his own in this game.
The
initial concession of Yoshi, which is you eat a bunch of dudes and shit out eggs.
Yep, that came from here.
Not only, he did that in
in
Mario World,
but
they took it to its logical conclusion here, where you can shit out 6 eggs and have them follow you around and launch them at people. I mean, like, unapologetic about that. Just like, we're going for it. Good on you guys. I love the game. I really think it's great. I would love to play it anytime.
Displays such a level of creativity on the part of Nintendo.
Creativity and consistency, because everything in that game feels like it's perfectly meant to be where it is, and I don't know.
The art style
is very
weird,
cohesive style,
but it's consistent, and
character
fits.
Designs are so good.
Yep, I think one thing that we don't really credit enough in those early games is, hey, those tiles were really weirdly shaped. You can be wandering around, you'll be like going on hills and kind of like walking around and like up and down and stuff. And that's something we kind of took for granted. A lot of those early games, you're just like running on a plane, jump up, running on that plane.
Yeah, did you say that was one of the things that made Sonic a big deal technologically? Because curved platforms was not a normal thing.
They went for curved platforms while Super Nintendo went for sloped platforms.
Yeah.
Which, granted, there's only so much difference between them. It's actually easier to program for a slope than it is for a curve. I think the curve looks more impressive, but it's easier at the end of the day to do a slope and have it be, solid piece of gameplay mechanic.
That's fair. But yeah, that game is awesome. I would love to go back and play it. Eat a monster, shit out an egg, throw it at somebody.
I think
profit.
I think the bosses are really well made in that game.
Yeah. The weird Koopa guy.
Yep.
And the ghost dude with the flower pot.
Yeah, the flower pot guy.
And oh man, there's some good ones.
Was it Salvo?
Yeah.
The big green globby dude.
I love that game.
Fucking Bert is the big like pants wearing guy. You got to drop his pants to get it to beat him.
Oh man, yeah.
So many good stuff.
Again, the character design just feels good in that game.
Yeah, Yoshi's story is basically Yoshi's Island 2.
Oh
when
yeah,
it really comes down to it. It's just a slightly 3D-ified version of that game,
which I honestly didn't like as much. But yeah,
that was all right. I think that the fruit aspect, the fact that levels never actually ended, was a little bit of a bummer to me. You had the level only ended when you got 30 fruit. Was kind of a little. It didn't feel as good to me.
Did they loop?
No, you just had to go back.
Oh, weird.
Some of the loops, not many of them though.
But yeah, Yoshi's Island, awesome game. Next
Next up on the list, at number 6, we have the game we're currently playing on the channel right now, Kirby Superstar. Yeah.
Well, we won't talk about this one too much then, because you can go to our Kirby Superstar Let's Play to hear what we think about it. Spoilers, we fucking love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's wall-to-wall fun. The designs are good. The aesthetic is tight. The characters are interesting. We talked about how dramatic the Revenge of the Meta Knight actually
Revenge of Meta Knight.
is.
Milky Way Wishes is also a pretty surprisingly dramatic setup.
The mini games are super fun.
Literally the only regret that I have across that entire game is while the breadth of it is amazing, it doesn't.
You don't have regrets.
Much,
you have complaints.
I guess complaints. Yeah, it has the only thing that it lacks.
He said like a jerk.
The only thing that it lacks is a real sense of depth. There's not a huge amount of depth. The games are over so quickly. There's not a lot of time to really get into the meat of what's going on.
Yeah, I think Great Cave, Meta Knight, and
Milky
Way get there a little bit. I mean, any of those three is still deeper than the original 2 Kirby games.
Yeah.
But you're right. It doesn't. That's why Dreamland 3 actually is so successful, because it does feel a little more like that.
Fills a lot of the gap left by Kirby Superstar.
But that's not even really a complaint. We fucking love the game.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's just fun.
It really.
The whole time.
That's the game. Like
and
Kirby's Adventure.
2-player, be any guy you want. That's awesome.
Kirby's Adventure really gave you the base level of what a Kirby game is. Kirby Superstar, I think, codified Kirby games. Like every Kirby game must at least have.
It's the standard we compare all games since to for Kirby.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Watch our Let's Play. Like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe.
Okay, so our number five is about as controversial as a game that managed to get to number 5 on our combined list could be, and that's because, I'll get to the interesting thing on here later. But so you actually voted this as number 5.
Okay.
I voted this as number 7. Ian voted this as his number 2. This is his number 2 game on the whole list.
But remember, he's Ian.
Yeah. And that is Super Mario RPG Legend of the 7 Stars.
I don't disagree with him. That was a tough one for me to rank.
That was incredibly hard for me to rank.
That game is so good.
I think part of what I did was I ranked it against the other Super Nintendo RPGs and went from there.
Right. Whereas if you look at it from a fun standpoint, there are moments where that game is more fun than Chrono Trigger. There's a lot of them. It might be, on average, more fun than Chrono Trigger. But fun
isn't the only metric.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Again, it's honestly...
It's arguably the most important one.
This list is arguably meaningless because
it's
so subjective.
Yeah, but that's what YouTube is.
But that's
man.
that's what we're here for.
Subjective field. That's.
I mean, we should call this our subjective opinions on the 25 best.
That's a long
Super Nintendo
title.
games
I don't like that.
With the D-pad starring Rick and John,
and featuring Ian's
his little Zelda head pop up. Boop, boop. So, Super Mario RPG, I fucking love it.
Mario RPG is one of the few.
Is that
games.
another Woolsey classic? Oh, do you see that spider coming down our house right there?
No.
In front of the TV? Whoa! Pause. Mario RPG.
Hey, we're back. So, Mario RPG.
I just defeated a spider boss.
You did. I don't think there are any spider bosses in Mario RPG.
No. There's Culex, though.
There is Culex.
Anyway.
A great setup to Final Fantasy.
Oh, man. Was that another Woolsey translation? I bet it was.
It might have been. I don't know.
That game was so good. It had, like...
Was it Bill? You said Bill Woolsey?
Ted. It,
Whatever. He had an excellent adventure in video gaming.
Yeah, seriously. I love that guy. I wanted his job when I was a kid. It took the established Mario world.
He did Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, and Mario RPG, among other games. He did Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, Final Fantasy Legend 3, Breath of Fire, Secret of Evermore, Shadow Madness.
Dude.
Basically everything Square put into the US.
Yeah. That's
for
awesome.
The entirety of the Super Nintendo
Must have been
time,
such a cool
along
job.
with Legend 3 and Shadow Madness.
Anyway, it took the established Mario world, but definitely took a lot of liberties with it.
Yeah.
And gave it some attitude and personality that I think it kind of needed, at least for this adventure. And
I think that's the game that really actually gave Bowser his first real characterization, and it stuck with him.
That's a really good point.
He's had this, and yeah, you expect a bad guy like him who's basically a dragon turtle thing to have a brash, loud, angry personality, but it gave him this sort of weird, dark sense of humor, like a black comedy emphasis that stuck with him through then, especially in the Mario and Luigi games. Mm-hmm. They clearly take their cues from the original Mario RPG.
And you see his soft side, too, because there's a couple of moments where he's like weirdly not confident, and you're like, oh, that's funny. So anyway, I like that.
Yeah.
I remember seeking out the lazy shell late in the game, which like you have to know how to get it, otherwise you'll never find it.
Yeah, it's very, very Final Fantasy. If you don't know it's there, you'll never find it.
Like the walls you have to walk through in FF4.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't even know what to say other than that I would love to play the Axon Rangers are
The Axon Rangers are great.
so cool. Send up the Power Rangers.
You got to beat the pink one first and the black one second. That's the only way you're going to get by.
Take out the minorities first. Got it.
The pink one heals, so the sooner you can get rid of them, you're way better off in that battle.
Mm-hmm.
The black one literally only attacks you physically with heavy hits.
Now who's racist? I'm sorry, everyone. I'm trying. It's late. I follow the comedy first and then the ethics. Whatever. It's fine. Next game. Hey, Coach.
Our number 4 on the list is one that I don't think anyone's going to be terribly surprised with here. If anything, if you're following along, at this point you could probably predict what is our number 4 and then what's in our top 3, but not in the right order. Our number 4 is Mega Man X. This was my number 4, John's number 4, Ian's number 3. It deserves a top 5 spot without any real shadow of a doubt.
You've seen us play this game no less than 3 times.
Yeah.
We fucking love Mega Man X.
It is if I have to actually sit and think of like what my favorite gaming experiences in life are, Mega Man X is way near the top of that list.
It's up there. It's a good game.
It's so good.
It just feels good.
It's one of the rare few examples of a franchise that jumped generations and didn't just survive the jump, but improved significantly by virtue of making that jump.
Ironically, if they had called it Super Mega Man, it would have been the most right Super game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'd say Super Castlevania 4 probably makes a pretty solid jump.
It's interesting that it didn't actually make our list. We all mentioned it as an honorable mention, but we never... And it's not because it's a bad game. It's because I tried it and was like, fuck this. After playing Symphony of the Night, I'm not going to bother.
It still has its frustrations. There's a lot of problems with that game.
Yeah.
It's a good game, but there's a lot of flaws.
But anyway, Mega Man X is a good game with very few flaws. I love that game. I play it all the time. I played it a lot when I was a kid. I made my brother play it. We played it. He's good at it.
I can't think of any time I've ever played that game where I've thought, this doesn't make sense, or this is unfair, or this shouldn't be like this. Every ounce of that game is refined to the point of perfection.
Yeah.
The only reason it's not in the top 3 is because the top 3 are such a locked
Holy Trinity
box of and it's the only thing that holds Mega Man X back from being in that top 3 is scope.
Okay.
It's just not a big enough game.
That's true. You can beat it in an hour and 10 minutes, as we proved.
Yeah. You can beat it in such a short amount of time where the other 3 top games require 5, 10, 30 hours of playtime to really do it.
Yeah. But we love it.
As straight up action games go, Mega Man X is our top rated game.
And of the top 4 games, it's the one I'd be more likely to pick up and play on average.
Replay value is exceptionally high in Mega Man X.
Well, not even that. It's just the rest of the ones we're going to talk about take 30 hours, right? So if I'm not in the middle of playing that, I'm going to go for a quick game like Mega Man X more often.
That's fair.
Yeah, so awesome. We love it. You know we love it. Go watch any of our Let's Plays on that. You can watch the one that Ben and Ian did, or you can watch the one that is a race between Rick and I.
Us.
I won't tell you
CJ.
who wins.
Okay, so what's left is our top 3.
You already know what they are.
And before we get into the top 3, I think this is probably the best time we have to go over some honorable mentions. The games that so every game that made it into the top 25 are games that at least 2 of the 3 of us put into the top 25 ourselves.
We asked CJ to chip in, but he's like, I didn't even play 25 SNES games.
He didn't play a lot of Super Nintendo. Ben really played like no Super Nintendo.
Yep.
Like there's a limited.
We should have asked Dustin, but he's
the timing was
busy
weird.
Having a birthday.
He's busy with work, and it was his birthday. So go watch the empty video
Birthing
game nerd.
and or working.
Watch the empty video game nerd play on Ouija.
Yeah.
on our channel. That'll be a good time. So some honorable mentions. Ian, for his number 24, voted for Kirby's Dream Course.
Surprising me. He's like, I emulated that shit.
It's fun. I enjoy it. I love that game, but I would never put that in my top list of like.
Yeah.
If I had to make a list of here is the list of all good quality games on the Super Nintendo, then yes, it would turn up on that list. It is better than, it is at least good, if not very good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in terms of like just the best, I don't know if I'd put it on that list.
But the thing is, like, choosing the top 25 is, choosing the top 20 is tough. Choosing the 20 to 30 spots.
Those get really tricky.
Right. So we probably would have had to put it in by the end anyway. Yeah. So for us, it's probably like a 28.
Ian also, for his 23rd slot, voted for Illusion of Gaia.
Yeah, that's a cool game.
I have no real knowledge of it.
I had it. I played a little bit of it. I didn't get very far. Ian delved a little deeper into some of the games that I didn't. So I think he played more of that one than I did. All I remember is I think that's the one that has a scene where like a sentient pig offers himself up to feed a starving village. And I think that's what that game is known for.
All right.
So spoilers, sorry. I don't know if that's like a big dramatic moment. It probably is, but whatever. Anyway, seems like a cool game. What else?
His number 22 was Earthworm Jim.
I played that game, and objectively, it's probably a good platformer, but it just didn't grab me. It was like, we're 90s, we're edgy.
That game fits for me right along with like Ren and Stimpy, with James Pond had a very similar kind of vibe to it.
Like,
it's just kind of Rocko's Modern Life. It was a very here's a cartoon.
Don't pollute the Rocko name.
Here's a cartoon as a weird licensed. Real Monsters had a Super Nintendo game.
Earthworm Jim was a game first.
Was the game?
I
first?
think so. Yeah.
But the vibe that I get from it is like, we're trying to be the silly, funny cartoon game. Like,
right. Like I would have been fine with the style if the game had been better, but I don't think it's the all-star game.
Yeah.
But I didn't play as much of it as Ian did, so again, maybe if you get past the first 3 levels, it opens up. Who knows?
On my side, my number 24 was Star Fox, the original on Super Nintendo, which admittedly I have not played much of. I've played a bit of it, but I feel like it did a shitload for programming of video games. It was one of the first really 3D home console games, and it was certainly, probably the first really popular fully 3D video games.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a cool game.
It's a question of whether
I didn't like playing it.
Yeah, it's a question of like, is it one of the best or is it just important?
Great question.
Which is a weird line, and it's probably more along the lines of important. That's why I made it my 24.
Right.
Yeah. My 23 likewise was F-Zero, the original there.
Yep.
That's one that proved that Mode 7 was absolutely a viable, route to take for video gaming.
Yeah. And they made F-Zero, and then I feel like we should have just made Mario Kart. So they made Mario Kart, and now we have both. So that's good. Yeah.
I mean, F-Zero was very good. It's very hard. I think the more modern games do it a lot better, but the original is an excellent template of what should be a starting point for F-Zero games.
Cool. And any other outliers?
Yeah, we have a few more. My number 20 game was Disney's Aladdin on the Super Nintendo. For what it's worth, there was a Genesis version as well. The Super Nintendo version is definitely better than the Genesis version.
They're different games.
They are two entirely different games. The Genesis version is still decent, but it's got a lot of flaws, and I think the Super Nintendo version is way better in general.
Yeah.
Solid platforming, a lot of good action. You can use, apples and swords and all that crazy shit, and like fun game. It's the only one out of this entire thing that is just explicitly a licensed game. No, that's not true. Sorry. I had one more that was a licensed game.
Yeah.
But so one of only 2 out of all of these that are actually a licensed game out of 34 games in this whole thing.
And what's your next one?
Number 19 for you was Kirby's Avalanche, which surprised the shit out of me.
So honestly, I cheated there because I love Mean Bean Machine. Close enough. I would take
All right,
it. If I had to go to a desert island with 25 SNES games, I would take it because I love Mean Bean Machine.
I mean, it's if anything, it's just the Super Nintendo version of the same game that
Right.
Mean Bean Machine is a Genesis and Game Gear version
Right.
of.
So it counts.
I think that counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good game,
good.
solid puzzle game. I think it pales in comparison to Tetris Attack,
Yeah.
but it's a Japanese classic. I think Taito were the ones who made that one.
That was when I was starting to stretch a little bit. Again,
Yeah.
it's the top 20
As you
come
move
to
down the
mind
list, it gets
easily,
hard.
but the next spots are really hard to
Yeah.
crystallize.
My number 17 was Super Castlevania 4.
Yep.
I think
Because
it's a
you felt like it should
solid
be there.
game. And I've played a little bit of it, not a lot, but like it's a game that definitely deserves at least some recognition among the best Super Nintendo games. Maybe I rated too high. It's possible. But I think in a lot of ways it solidified the Castlevania formula in terms of just like how you control the character.
I'm glad
Had
it
this
exists.
Like everything felt smooth.
I'm glad it exists because it laid down the path for Symphony of the Night to knock the doors off.
Yeah.
It feels like a demo of Symphony of the Night to me because I played Symphony of the Night first.
Okay.
And Symphony of the Night is one of my top 25 all time. So, we can talk about that some other time.
All right. The last one on the list of honorable mentions is my number 9, which was Goof Troop. And yes,
Yeah, man, you do you.
I made that as a top 10 entry.
I mean, it must be a good game. Our tastes are close enough that I'm not going to be like,
I
what an
rated-
idiot. Like, I'd probably like it if I
I
played
rated it higher than Super Mario World. And Kirby's Dream Land 3 and Earthbound, Donkey Kong Country 1, Tetris Attack, Final Fantasy 4, Mario Kart. I rated this higher than all of those.
I didn't love Disney as a kid, so I think I prematurely just dismissed all the Disney games as not being good.
Goof Troop, if you were a fan of Zelda at any point in the 90s and you wanted to have a multiplayer Zelda experience, the answer was Goof Troop. And it is so good.
That's cool.
So
we'll play it
good.
sometime. I'll let you do that.
There's puzzles, there's action, the music is solid. It was made by Capcom, so you know that they're, Capcom in the
Capcom's
90s.
never made a bad game. No, in the
Capcom
90s
in
they
the
were a lot
90s,
better, yeah.
Pinnacle of quality. They really they took their shit, especially if it was a system that was not one of their franchises. Like Mega Man, they dicked around, but
That's true, actually. I
between
liked the
Goof
Chip
Troop-
and Dale and Little Nemo Capcom games for NES.
and there was also the Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages games on the Game Boy
Yeah.
for Legend of Zelda. Those I don't like them as well as Link's Awakening, but they're still very good games.
Yeah.
So Capcom knew what
Alright.
they were doing when it was other people's property.
All right, so yeah.
So Goof Troop, my number 9, did make it on the list. So now we got the top 3.
True Goof Troop. All right, top 3, let's go.
Our top 3. So for what it's worth, for the top 3 games, I personally was this close to just saying they're tied for first for me. All
It's
three of
tough.
them.
It's
Together,
really tough.
they're first. Call them all 1-1-1.
Yeah.
And I'll see where you and Ian's votes fall, and we'll go from there. I did give them a rank. Ultimately, hilariously, my votes didn't matter when it came to how these comparatively
Just like
linked to each other.
democracy.
The purpose of instant runoff voting is that whatever wins is on average better than whatever comes below it. More than 50% of the things below it are worse. So my vote was the thing that the Seeligs, the brothers Seelig, were fighting against. 1, 2, and 3 for me.
Did Ian and I have the same 1, 2, and 3?
1, 2, and 3 for you. For Ian, they were 1, 6, and 7.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
Ian skewed this in a. Ian very
Interesting,
nearly
interesting,
skewed this in a weird way. His number 3 was Mega Man X, and his number 2 was Mario RPG. Falling,
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Falling at number 3, my number 2, John's number 3, Ian's number 7 is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Love that game.
I love that intro. It's so good.
Yeah.
That whole
Just
game
that
is.
intro alone puts it on the list. Ugh.
So it was my number 2
It was my 3,
because it was your 3.
so I was right.
You were right, yeah. And it was Ian's of the top 3 for him was his number 3. I just had a very hard time. Again, all three of these I had a very hard time sorting between them, but like
It's tough. Honestly, the D-pad might be why I didn't rate it higher, because I guess I was sleepy. I don't know. I didn't have a good time when we did the Let's Play of it for some reason.
yeah,
I remembered it one way and then it wasn't that way, and I think I need to play it again on my own, and I'll be back to loving it.
What made it not number 3 for me was the general enjoyability, the general accessibility, how easy it was to pick up after taking time off.
It's still probably my number 1 Zelda game.
Absolutely number 1 Zelda game.
I
don't think there's any doubt
to this day.
I think I would still say it's my number 1. I don't remember if I made it my number 1 the last time when we did our top 10 list, but if I just like a cursory sort of look at it, it's probably my number 1 right now.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, it made everything about the NES games way better. It brought in so many things. It started to develop the character and the world, and even the, not snarkiness, but just the style. Some of the weird things, like you can get the cuckoos to attack you. Things like that.
The world felt real and full, populated. It felt like an actual kingdom for the first time.
They did a great job.
And what's mind-blowing about it is, like I said before, this game came out only 8 months after the system started, and this is a system that lasted for 7 years.
It probably was meant to be a launch title, and they were like,
it probably was. They were like, look, we're so close.
Yeah.
We're not quite there. But yeah, no.
You can beat it in a couple minutes. Check out our episode 0 of our Let's Play of that. Let's see.
Yeah, it's such a good game. It solidified Zelda as like the Legend of Zelda on the NES, for all intents and purposes, created the adventure genre for home consoles. It existed to an extent on Atari and Commodore, but it didn't really. It was like, oh, you're a box and you're doing a thing. This is a game where you played a guy adventuring in the world, just doing your thing,
swinging your sword. And A Link to the Past defined that genre.
You know what's interesting that I learned recently?
What's that?
In Mario, the fire sticks, the potobos, not potobos. Yeah, potobos, I think.
No, potobos are the ones that come up and down. I don't know what the fire sticks are.
Oh, you're right, yeah. The fire sticks, whatever they're called, were actually originally meant to be a Zelda enemy.
Nice.
But then they decided it's a little tricky to move diagonally, so let's move that over to Mario instead.
Oh, that's funny.
And they left it unchanged, that same, clockwise kind of motion thing.
That's funny. Huh.
But yeah, The Legend of Zelda.
So are those games built on the same code?
A lot of it, yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. They built them. The games were made simultaneously. One was meant to be a side-scrolling platformer. The other was meant to be a top-down adventure game. Yep. And otherwise, everything else was like, we'll see where it fits.
Yeah.
That's neat. But yeah, the A Link to the Past it undeniably perfects what the original Zelda was shooting for. Then you have like 20 or 30 items. The world map is huge.
The Aghanim battles.
The music.
It invented the trope of reflecting the boss's attack back at him.
The Triforce became like irrelevant. This is the first game where the Triforce was the Triforce. Yeah. Before that, you had the Triforce of courage, the Triforce of wisdom, and it's like, what does that mean? This is the game where it became the Triforce, like 3 pieces, 3 triangles. The Master Sword's first appearance,
the
Ocarina's first appearance.
Ocarina.
This is the first. This Ocarina of Time codified the Ocarina, but it appeared first in A Link to the Past. The Lost Woods appeared for the second time. It was actually in the original game, but it was just like, northwest, southwest, whatever.
So good.
Everything about that game gets referenced in other Zelda games to this day. The new footage for Breath of the Wild has a shot of the Master Sword in the woods, just sitting in a pedestal,
supposed to be,
like it is in A Link to the Past.
Yeah, when they fucking put it in the Temple of Time in Ocarina, I'm like, it's in the
I mean, I got it.
It's in the forest, guys.
That's one of the things I loved about Twilight Princess, that they took the two and went, we can make this fit together, because it's a place where physically, physically it's where the forest temple should be. But the architecture of where you are is the Temple of Time, but it's the woods. The temple has eroded over the years, and now it's just the woods again. And it's like, this took all of the different fragments of what the Master Sword was supposed to be and put them all together in a way that actually made sense, was a brilliant homage 3 separate ways to different Zelda games.
That was cool.
Oh, that was one thing I struggled really hard not to spoil for you guys.
Most importantly, Pegasus boots.
Pegasus boots. Were they part of? Yeah, they were part of that. I remember them much more from Link's Awakening because I played that a lot more. But yeah, they did totally come from A Link to the Past.
Oh yeah, that game was great.
Yeah.
CJ came to my house when Ian was very young, and we started a file called God, and Ian remembers that to this day. And when we started hanging out with CJ a lot more again through D-pad, Ian and we were playing that game.
That's why
he remembered, but he was like 3.
God, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. He was like 3. So I think that's cool that he has that too. Anyway,
it's amazing.
Awesome game.
So,
I kind of want to play it again on my own.
The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Yeah, it's one of the few Zelda games that after the Legendary Let's Play, I'm just like,
I'd like to play that.
I'd play that again right now.
Most of them are like, no, thank you, please.
Yeah.
Next game.
I'd be like all about it. Yeah.
Next game. Next game.
All right, it's time for our number 2 all-time greatest Super Nintendo game. We said that the top 3 are probably pretty predictable. The fact that these 3 games have not been mentioned yet is kind of a giveaway as to what the 3 games are going to be. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is enough of a separate, it's just different enough from our top 2 that it kind of throws it out of the real contention of the top spot. But when you put these 2 games against each other, and we're going to, for now, we're just going to talk about the number 2 game. When we talk about the number 1, we're going to talk about not just the number 1, but the number 1 and 2 versus each other. It is an incredibly difficult, super difficult thing to decide. This game was Ian's number 6, John's number 2, and my number 1, and that is Chrono Trigger.
Yeah. So you're saying I was right again?
You're right again.
No, I fucking love Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger has had a bigger effect on me musically, perhaps. Those songs stick in my head more. I taught myself to play guitar. Yeah. Absolutely. No, I taught myself to play guitar mostly with Chrono Trigger songs, which is why everything I play sounds like a Chrono Trigger song.
The main theme for Chrono Trigger still hits me emotionally.
And, so I've realized that when I'm working, I can listen to music as long as it doesn't have words.
Yeah.
So lately I've been trolling through SoundCloud for OC Remix of...
There's like 80,000 fucking quadrillion Chrono Trigger remixes.
Are a lot.
They love... Chrono Trigger is one of the first games that really became popular on that site. They love Chrono Trigger on OC
I love
Remix.
Chrono Trigger. That game was awesome. The characters were solid. Actually, that's a good... The characters were great, but they didn't change much. Magus a little bit.
The characters didn't change. The story kind of changed.
The story was very dynamic. The worlds, the time, obviously, you travel in time. It's awesome.
Honestly, a time travel mechanic done well and done right on its own is enough for it to elevate, that kind of a story for me. Stories are hard enough as is. To make a convincing, good, compelling plot is really hard, especially in a video game. Like, you have to work way harder to make it so that not only is the plot good, but the player's interaction has to feel meaningful. Like, your actions need to feel like they're having an impact in some way.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they could have done that more. One of the problems is that all the time periods you were allowed to go to were so far away. You couldn't, meet someone and then meet them again as an old man, which I think is, the most powerful way to have a time travel trope affect the player.
Admittedly, that's one thing that the Dragon Quest series did really well. Especially, I'm in the middle of playing...
It's a motorcycle.
Some weird noise that says like a pocket bike or something. But Dragon Quest V, you play as a character who you play in 3 different periods of their life. You play as them as a little boy who then gets captured and sold into slavery.
Oh, wow.
You then play as a young adult who finds love and starts a family, and then you play as a grown man with your children trying to rescue your wife who has been captured by the monsters. And you play across these different periods, and you can go back to your hometown from the very beginning of the game, at the end of the game, and you'll meet, the guy who was like the apprentice to your father while you were being taken care of. He's like, oh my God, I haven't You look amazing.
That's a cool concept. That's a cool concept. I like that.
One thing that Dragon Quest always did really well is it made you feel really warm about the characters. Everyone felt very authentic.
And I'm not complaining about the Chrono Trigger characters, but academically or by the book or textbook wise, you're supposed to have some depth and change in the way they are, right? They begin the game and end the game as exactly the same people.
I think
with
that
the exception of Magus, maybe.
Magus definitely. Also,
No, because he's still Magus. He just decides that it suits his needs to join your team. He doesn't get any better.
he softens a lot. He comes to realize he definitely seems to be anyway. And in a sense,
If you don't murder him, yeah.
in a sense, Frog also kind of does it the opposite direction of like
Mm-hmm.
they both come to realize like we let our personal strife
Mm-hmm.
take over in it, like our emotions
Okay.
took over in exchange for logic. Like we both kind of want the same thing,
Yeah.
but we came at it from opposite sides and we found ourselves at each other's, at knife point to the other one, but we don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
We're fighting the same person. We got tricked basically into being on opposite sides of this.
Yeah, I still think by the end, Frog hates him.
He does.
But anyway,
Unequivocally.
whatever. It's an
Aside
awesome
from the
game.
fact that Magus has helped and has helped save Chrono,
Yeah.
Froggy still Frog still is that his name? Froggy?
Frog. It's Frog.
Yeah. Still seems to be at the end of the game convinced like, yeah, he helped. He's still a bad guy. but
Right.
he
And
helped.
I kind of buy that.
Yeah.
I think he is.
I think
Even
that's a
when you
good
go back
characterization.
to
Someone can be
12,000
like,
BC and you meet Shala and Janus, like
yep.
it doesn't really change. But that's an interesting plot point.
Yeah.
Like that whole.
There's
thing. But
so
anyway,
much about those
There's
characters
so much
that really,
that's good. I'm not. It sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm not. I love.
It's a very
I love all of
inventive
it.
storyline.
I'm sorry, they took the active time battle system and made it more interesting with
Yes.
the triple text. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I would actually say that Chrono Trigger's battle system is superior to Final Fantasy VII's.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I have a poster
That's
of
a
Robo.
hard. That's
in my
a
room.
hard thing to say on the internet as a video game
Yeah.
channel and not immediately worry about being burned to the ground.
No, I think
But
you're.
yeah,
I think you're right.
Chrono Trigger is just a little tighter.
It's
It
more
feels
fun.
a little
Limit
yeah,
breaks are cool, and materia gives you more customization, but
You know
it
what it
also
is?
has less uniqueness.
because your physical
so
placement on the map matters in Chrono Trigger, and it doesn't mean shit in Final Fantasy VII.
that's true.
The only thing that matters in 7 is the enemy in front of you or behind you. That's
I
it.
like that you can see enemies on the map and avoid a lot of them too,
Mhm.
which is a nice quality of life feature.
Mario RPG had a lot of that too, which was very good.
Yeah.
Actually, Mario RPG had almost exclusively that.
Chrono Trigger did a good job of feeling accessible and cartoony while still being actually epic.
Yeah.
And that's a tough
It's-
balance to strike.
There is the only point in that entire game that didn't feel engrossing in terms of the tone, the plot, the characters, the music, the sprite work, the gameplay, everything is at the very beginning when you're at the fair. And that's only because
Oh man, I kind of disagree. That like gives you, it paints a pretty good picture of the whole world.
it paints a good picture of the world, but at the same time, it plays into
And
a very
it's kind of
Japanese-
I think it's kind of a bait and switch. They're setting up this like cool, comfy pastel,
maybe that's my problem with it.
goofy thing, and then they're like, "Oh wait, shit's gonna get real weird in a minute."
Admittedly, yeah. Come to think of it, so a lot of Japanese RPGs at the time, you start as a commoner, a villager, a merchant, something, and you get sucked into a crazy adventure. Dragon Quest
yep,
4, one of your characters is literally a merchant.
Okay.
And you like go on an adventure and it gets huge and you uncover the mystery and you go and do this thing. And that was kind of the standard for Japanese RPGs at the time is your main character, who is an everyman, has a simple quest that becomes a massive quest.
Okay.
One where the fate of the world hangs in the balance based on
You do see that. Yeah.
Chrono Trigger starts that way.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with a very simple, here's your basic quest, go to the fair, have a good time, come home, and while you're there, hey, here's our friend, she's showing off some crazy tech, cool, and it's like, all right, everything seems very normal, and then it's like, oh, hey, you ready? We're going to do a teleport, it's awesome, and it's like, oh, that's cool, hey, she didn't come out the other side. Oh, fuck, wait, no.
Are you just recounting the beginning?
Well, I am, but like it's the idea that like it's a rare example of an early twist where up until the moment where she turns on that machine, it feels like every other Japanese RPG. And that maybe that's part of the reason I don't like the beginning a lot is because it feels so normal, where the rest of the game is very abnormal for the time.
I don't know. I still kind of disagree. Like you fight a dancing robot, and you
Yep.
you
sure do.
You go into a what? You don't
I hate that battle. That's such a
with
fucking
Gato.
with Gato. Yeah,
But it's quirky. It's not like
like
yeah,
I don't know.
it's stupid, but it's quirky. You know what I mean? Like
And then the little hoo hoo hoo, like the little like thing in the house with.
I think it's a mistake
Fucking
to criticize it.
Ghost Man. I don't know his name.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
with
fucking
you. There's
remember.
some weirdness there, but I think it's to say in the first 10 minutes it's like every other game, which is maybe every other game has a Kefka laugh Ghost Man and a dancing robot. I don't know. But anyway, I see your point, but I think it's kind of a bait and switch. In 10 minutes, shit gets serious real quick. And like you said, you're totally right. Like your first quest is to go to the fair, your second quest is to go find Marl, and your third quest that turns into time travel and saving the world in Lavos.
It's not just that shit gets serious. You can play almost any RPG, and within the first hour, something goes from here's a simple quest to whoa, holy shit, and like stuff gets real. Chrono Trigger is one where literally it's like, hey, you're at the fair. Your date just fell through time.
Yeah.
You should go after her. And you're sucked 400 years into the past, and you're like, whoa,
right,
fuck.
which is pretty cool. And
It's awesome. It is fucking awesome. And then the twist is so unexpected for a first-time player.
Yeah.
Where you're playing through, we're kind of a almost medieval kind of, and then you're just like, no, you're in fucking medieval times.
Totally agree. And then you find out that is a huge twist, right?
Yes.
But you find out that that's just part of it. Like
it's the first twist of so
many, and they get bigger and bigger.
That's why Chrono Trigger is my number one Super Nintendo game.
And
it never stops surprising you.
You can go to the end of time, which is cool. It gives you chills.
Gaspar hanging out. Or is it Gaspar? Or is that
Melchior is the one who makes the swords. Gaspar is the one at the end of time, and Balthazar is the other one who's stupid.
He's the guy you see early in the game, right?
He's the one who lives with the monsters, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, no, in my mind, it's the best one because it's a game that is consistently amazing and consistently surprises you in a positive way. And no point in that game was ever like, all right, here we go. Oh, man. Like, never.
I have to play it again. It's been a long time since I've completed it.
Also, time travel is a weakness of mine. I love a good time travel story.
You are wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
I think that stuff is amazing.
Just watch any of the D-Pads live videos. Yeah, but Chrono Trigger, I love it. I want to play it again. Let's play it. Let's play now. Let's play.
The number one Super Nintendo game, as voted by me, John, and Ian. For me, it was my number 3. But for John and Ian, it was both of their number 1, and that is, it's kind of obvious by now. The top 3 are pretty much interchangeable in a lot of people's minds. Final Fantasy VI. The number 1 Super Nintendo game. I can't argue with its placement as number 1. Like I said before, Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, and A Link to the Past, in my mind, I was this close to just saying they're all number 1.
Fantastic.
I don't think you're going to find... I think if you went to every single person who was born prior to, let's say, 92, and asked them what the absolute 3 best Super Nintendo games were, I think that less than 10% of them would not have Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, and A Link to the Past as the top 3.
Well, it's tough because you got to remember a lot of people just dismiss RPGs. They're like, "Oh, that's not the kind of game I like." I did that for a long time. I needed
what are you doing
to
over
get into
there?
it. Yeah, our cat's going nuts over there. I think she sees a moth. Anyway, Final Fantasy VI, unbelievable. You do not start off as an everyman, like Rick just talked about. You start off as a fucking magic brainwash lady.
Yep.
And
a slave. You start off as a slave.
Who still gets her
slave
own fucking rockin' Magitech armor.
A slave who is a member of a race of effectively gods who is trapped in a robot armor forced to work for the bad guy's army.
I believed the townspeople and the world in general,
maybe. The townspeople pretty often, yeah.
More than I do in Chrono Trigger. The NPCs felt more rushed in Chrono Trigger, on average.
I think
there are some that are good.
The NPCs are more believable in Final Fantasy VI. I think the player characters are more believable in Chrono Trigger.
I would say some of them. It's hard because Final Fantasy VI is a cast of 14, which I would say is a strength. No, fuck you.
Only 14? I thought it was.
Fuck you. It's a strength. Because the story leans on not all 14 of them, right? There are moments. It's like a good movie or film or TV show. There's an A story, a B story, and a C story, and
like Edgar, Sabin, Terra, like they're kind of the main
Well, it weaves in and out too. That's the thing.
It does.
Because halfway through the game, all of a sudden you're Celeste, and that's what you got to deal with.
Yeah.
Good luck to you. You know, and like I won't. It's fucking 20 years ago. Sorry, I'm gonna spoil it. But like, it is as epic as Chrono Trigger, despite not having the benefit of time travel for lots of reasons. Even before he destroys the world.
Say, spoiler, literally at the halfway mark of the game, the bad guy literally succeeds in destroying the world.
Kefka
and
starts
you're there
off
to watch it.
as a crazy dude, and you're like, whoa, this dude's crazy. He's so weird. And then it gets more and more like, oh, this dude's crazy. He's so violent. And then it gets crazy and like, oh, he's so crazy. He's a fucking literal demon. Like, and then you're like, wow, he's really a bad dude. He's like killing this guy and like having these people murdered and poisoning the water hole, and he just took control of the empire. And he's the only villain I can think of that actually succeeds in destroying the world.
Imagine if the Joker had a fascination with magic.
Holocaust magic.
That's kind of what Kefka reminds me of. Is like at the beginning of the game, he's like not like he's ineffective.
He seems like he's somebody's peon in the beginning of the game, which is awesome.
Shows up and he's like fucking with dudes.
Right. You're like, oh, he's Gestal's like wacky throwaway, like third in command who does his dirty work.
So for what it's worth, Kefka is notable as one of the very, very few Final Fantasy or any RPG villains who is not a puppet of somebody else.
He starts off that way.
Hi there, Tonk.
Hey, Tonk. She wants in on this game.
She's chasing a moth.
This game is awesome.
So at the beginning of the game, he shows up, which for what it's worth is not something that happens with many villains of the game. There's got to be like, oh, there it is. I saw it. Yep.
It is just a moth, though, right?
I'm just gonna grab this
Make sure
so
they
she
don't
can.
hit the computer.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, Kefka is a character who.
Sorry, guys.
The cats are looking in different directions.
Fucking nuts right now. Yeah.
Kefka shows up as the villain immediately, which is weird because you don't expect him to be the real villain because Final Fantasy has dulled you to that so much to the point where you're like, yeah, but who's the real bad guy? Who's he working for?
Well, in the first half of the game, you're like, oh, Emperor Gestal is that guy.
And then suddenly, doesn't he murder Gestal?
Yeah.
Yeah, he straight up is just like,
everybody else.
You?
Yeah.
Boom. And that's it. And you're like, oh, wait, what? And then you climb the mountain. At the top are the statues, and there's Kefka like...
And it's on a floating island, and Shadow dies unless you know what you're doing, and you don't, so Shadow dies.
And Kefka's just like, oh, hey, glad you could make it. Check this shit out. Whoosh! And like, you just wake up on an island, and the world has been destroyed.
Do you know why? The banter in Final Fantasy VI is better. I
think the dialogue is definitely better.
The banter is better.
Not by a lot. Chrono Trigger does
have moments.
Definitely good dialogue.
Chrono Trigger feels more like a anime, and Final Fantasy VI feels like a movie to me, dialogue-wise. I know that's hard. That's probably a terrible...
In my mind, the comparison is Final Fantasy VI is a much broader game. There's a lot more sprawling, character-based stuff going on there, whereas Chrono Trigger is a much more refined game. The entire thing is wrapped into this very tight circle of plots and characters and
in a way
actions.
That makes it feel smaller, but I do agree with you.
It is definitely smaller, but every little piece of it has meaning.
Yeah. No, I get you. There are definitely a couple of moments where 6 can drag. Maybe. The
reason that I put Final Fantasy VI as my number 3 compared to my number 1 of Chrono Trigger and my number 2 which was A Link to the Past is in Chrono Trigger, there is always a sense of here's what I'm doing. In A Link to the Past, there's always a vague sense, maybe not as strongly as here's what I'm doing. In Final Fantasy VI, depending where you are in the game, you might find yourself totally lost.
They use that as a dramatic device.
And I get that.
When Cup is Celeste, they want you to feel fucking lost and alone.
Is fine. When you wake up on the island, you just got to sit there and talk to everybody and be like, what happened? That's fine. I get that. That is okay. My biggest problem is, and I've mentioned this on the channel during Let's Plays before, is you when you hit the mainland, you kind of go along a path, you meet some other people, and then you hit a fork in the road. You can go left and you can go right. I don't know which direction I went initially, but I saved. I went that direction for about 2-3 hours, did some stuff, and then I died very suddenly to something I wasn't expecting. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't saved since the fork in the road, and I was like, I'm not fucking doing 2
Do you know
3
whose
hours
fault that
again.
sounds like to me?
It's my fault. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go the other way, which is fine. I feel like that's the appropriate choice at that point. It's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to at least try this. Went that way. About an hour in, before it felt necessary to save, even despite the other one, died again very suddenly. It was like, here's some monsters, fighting the monsters, no big deal. And then like in the wild, here comes a monster that's like 4 times stronger than the other wild monsters. I'm like, nope. And then I died.
Yeah.
And it was like, I got frustrated. I put it down. And I was like, all right, I'm going to come back to this later.
Okay.
And then I came back to it about 2-3 months later, and I picked it up and went,
You don't know what you're doing.
I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't know any of these characters anymore.
A common complaint of Final Fantasy VI is that the world of Ruin is a little bit too open-ended and it can be hard to find your way, and that's totally true. The other complaint I have is that in Zozo, it's unclear that you can jump between buildings, and I wasted a lot of time there
I
as
agree,
a child.
Yeah, that is,
but that's
never fun.
a pretty minor complaint.
Here's the thing: is like, yes, you watch a guy do it, but that's such an uncommon thing in games that you kind of come to expect.
You're like, well, I don't know how to jump in this game, so I can't do that.
Here's
so,
the rogue
right.
character who can jump between
Right.
buildings. I can't do that shit.
But literally,
And
like,
you wander around and get nowhere.
I remember
and fight
that.
a fuckload of enemies.
Yeah, I mean that place is hard, but
metric ass
but that-
load, and it
that-
never ends.
that town being hard isn't a complaint of the game. That you know what I mean? Like,
It reminds
but I
me of,
remember that being the only complaint I had was like, oh, I don't know how to jump around in Zozo.
In the original Dragon Quest, there was a town like that, and I want to say it was called like Grimaldar or something like that. I can't remember. Rimaldar, maybe?
You want to just put the laptop down a little bit more? I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I'm
the
gonna put it
cats
down
are
a
making me a
little
little
bit. 1
nervous. We should also probably cycle.
I want to say it was called Rimaldar, and it was a town where you entered, and it was abandoned. Not just abandoned, but it looked like a nuke had gone off in the town, which is weird because the entire game takes place in a medieval setting. But you're looking and you're like, hey, that's where a weapon shop used to be, and the walls are blown out. Here's an inn, and it's covered in poison swamp tiles. Oh, here's an item shop, and there's like this weird black tar everywhere. And there's a single treasure, invisible. It was a pain in the ass to like in the game figure out how you're supposed to do it, but like invisible treasure, and when you step one step in front of it, one of the strongest monsters in the entire game shows up. But like the idea is, it's like, oh, it's this town that's just ruined, and the wild encounter like fucking Pokemon, the random encounter rate is actually increased in the town.
And then you get that bad guy.
Yeah, you get
You
the bad
probably
guy.
got Doom
and then
Gaze, one of the
normal.
2 times you mentioned, the like thing that flies around and is terrible and can happen at random in the world of Ruin.
That might be.
And it probably wrecked
It's
you.
possible.
Deservedly.
It's definitely possible.
Doom
Gaze, I mean, I recognize the name.
Yeah. If you stop playing in the world of Ruin, I mean, you probably did miss that.
Yeah.
But the finale of that game, dude, like you did yourself a disservice by not finishing it, I think. The
I wanna go back
Kefka's
and play.
Tower is incredible, and you break your party into 3 so that you have a use for all the characters. And it's pretty forgiving if you didn't level up evenly. You know, if you have like 2 decent people on each team, you'll be fine. But like it's a pretty well done dungeon, and the final battle is just so dramatic, and like man, I'm getting like I love that game. Dancing Mad is, I still think, the best composition for any boss battle or at all.
Wow.
Dancing Mad is fantastic. One Winged Angel can go away.
One Winged Angel is such an overblown.
Yeah, why does everyone like it so much?
It's such
not
an
that good.
overplayed fucking piece of shit. Like, it's not a bad song, but it does not deserve the reverence that it has.
So if
It was an
if
important-
Dancing Mad was the composition at the end of Final Fantasy VII, people would
It
like
was
that
a
just as
mildly
much.
important theme in a very important game, and that's why it's so popular. There are so many more valid, more important, more meaningful themes across the entirety of
Clearly,
that
I've
franchise.
opened a can. I just like Dancing Mad. I think that's
One
an
Winged
awesome
Angel
song.
is such a weak fucking song. I think the musical technique of the song is very cool because there's a lot of like 11/8 and 9/8 and like weird ass time signatures that go in there that are in there specifically to unnerve the listener. The whole point is to like throw you off balance in the middle of the song, and it's very well executed. It's very good.
Well, I think Dancing Mad does that without the fancy tricks.
I think Still More Fighting is a better theme in Final Fantasy VII.
That's
than
a good
the
one, yeah.
Sephiroth one.
Yeah.
The boss theme of the same game is better than the final boss theme of the same game.
I feel like that happens sometimes. But anyway, I don't know how to talk about this without being a total schoolboy. I love
Do it.
Chrono Trigger. I love Final Fantasy VI. I think they're neck and neck.
Yeah.
They also have a lot of differences too. It's not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges a little bit.
They're very
I
different.
think their differences should be celebrated in some ways because they're Chrono Trigger just has a lighter feel.
Another big reason that I put Final Fantasy at my third spot and Chrono Trigger my number one is that Final Fantasy VI, no matter the advances that it made, no matter the progress that it pushed, at the end of the day, when I play it, I still am knowingly playing a Final Fantasy game. The basic elements of a Final Fantasy game are all still there. And I don't mean like the spells, Moogles, like the basic stuff. I can ignore that, but like the overall feel of how the game operates is still Final Fantasy. And the same thing for Dragon Quest.
But that game created most of those things you're feeling.
Yes and no. I feel a lot of the first 5 games in Final Fantasy VI. I think that it definitely set down a lot of the groundwork for later ones. I think 7 also set down a lot of groundwork, and the two of them form this nice patchwork of like, here's the basic structure of Final Fantasy.
So if you don't count Chocobos and Sids, what in the first 5 games do you feel in Final Fantasy VI?
I think
I'm just not entirely getting your point.
I mean, I think I don't know. It gets a little intricate with it. Like I think 2 and 4 both had a really solid plot. And I think 6 also has a good plot. I don't think that's a weakness or anything like that. But like, I think the summon
and the
system,
opera scene and the ghost train.
The opera scene is fantastic. The ghost train is excellent.
Man,
a lot of it comes down less to like
Poison's Doma.
See it's hard to define in real terms. The high points of Final Fantasy VI are unique to Final Fantasy VI, and undoubtedly among the best moments that console ever had. The opera scene, playing that, getting to that for the first time in like 12-ish, it didn't have as much of an impact as it would have had I played that for the first time in 1997. But
wow, yeah.
It's one of those things where like I get it and it's big and it's cool, but it's never going to hit me in the heart the way that it would have 20 years ago.
Also probably because you're playing on Game Boy Advance.
I don't think it makes a difference. I've played a lot
I think it does. Do you play with headphones?
No.
So you didn't, like, the music is probably a little bit more... Well, we're splitting hairs, but
I've played I've played every Final Fantasy game, like all of the first 6 Final Fantasy games on their Game Boy Advance and DS, versions, along with their NES and Super Nintendo versions.
Interesting.
Ultimately, the difference is negligible. I think the Game Boy Advance versions are actually incredibly faithful adaptations of the originals.
They do use a different translation, though, which I don't prefer. So I wonder, that might also play into it.
I think that's where Enix got involved. The Dragon Quest games, which were Enix, were much more like the dialogue was much more down to earth, a lot more realistic, a lot more regionalized. Mm-hmm. Like you could get a feel in a Dragon Quest game of like, oh, we're in Zipangu. It's basically Japan, and you can tell because like the sentence structure of the people here is a little off, not by much, but like you get that Japanese vibe, and like that's something that the Game Boy Advance versions of the Final Fantasy games also did.
Well, I mean, I'd be interested to play those versions, and I know they added some bonus content too, so I really should.
They did. All of them have excellent bonus content. 1 and 2 in particular has phenomenal bonus content.
Man, but with 6, like finding Go-Go and Yumaro, I mean, you have to find all your fucking characters at the end of the game. So I don't know, and like I know it's corny a lot of the stuff they say in like the final confrontation with Kefka, but he's just like, it doesn't matter. What you're saying is pointless. It's all pointless. Like, you can say whatever you want, but it's pointless. And I feel like he still comes away seeming a little more right than they do sometimes, depending on the mood you're in when you play the game, which I think is pretty cool. And like, again, he's just such a good villain too. Like, they're unapologetic in like, he's nihilism taken to its extreme end, and that is a legitimate villain. And people have called him one-dimensional, but I can definitely see that argument. But he also grows in terms of his ambition and his evilness and his nihilism. It is not He doesn't start and end at the same place. It's not just that he obtained great power; he changes. You know,
Yeah,
and they talk about
he definitely does change.
They
He
talk
gets
about
he gets an appreciation for in the early game. He's just like messing around and fucking with people for the hell of it. By the end of the game, he's definitely at a point where he's like appreciating the fact that like why, like that's his overarching thing is like who fucking cares? I've destroyed a lot of shit, but really, whatever.
Right.
Like,
and in a way, he thinks of it. I know him real well, right? He thinks of it like an equalization. So in a way, it's his corrupted form of justice,
neutralizing the world.
I would say, yeah, he's bringing balance to the world by wiping it all out. And
for what it's worth, one of the big things I mentioned to John when we were deciding these lists in the first place was between Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, you have a villain in Final Fantasy VI who is iconic as being one of the few singular villains who really just owns their game and has this direction to them, an overarching like they are in control, you're fighting them. Whereas with Chrono Trigger, there is no real villain. Like Lavos, yes, is the thing you must beat, but it isn't a villain. It's just a thing that fell from space that you have to kill before it destroys the world. Like
every time has, in a way, like
Magus isn't a villain.
You could
Shala isn't a villain. They're all people who like they might have gone astray.
It's not Shala. It was the queen
or Zeal, Queen Zeal. They've gone astray, but they're not necessarily bad guys.
Dalton's pretty much a bad guy. I mean,
Dalton's a douchebag. He's not a bad guy.
Guys, yeah.
He's a dick face.
Who
admittedly in the Game Boy Advance version gets an upgrade because they decided to connect the two games, and the only way they could figure out how to do that was to say, hey, Dalton's army that he was trying to raise up, like to make himself strong, actually happened, and that's the reason why the army has overtaken things by the time of Chrono Cross. Dalton actually fucking won.
Chrono Cross is like my least favorite part of Chrono Trigger.
I know. Chrono Cross
it's
is
a great game.
So embarrassing.
Just let it be its own game. It's not.
It's not Chrono Trigger 2. It's another game that happens to reference Chrono Trigger.
Yeah,
that's the
which
most
could have been
deserves.
fine, but they don't even. It's sloppy.
The elemental system was such a fucking disaster.
Actually, it's pretty cool once you figure it out.
It's
unwieldy,
cool,
yes.
But it's not smooth. You can't go into battle and go, there we go, here we go. Like, you have to sit there for like...
It doesn't feel like it's the same world as Chrono Trigger. They didn't do a good job.
You don't get the real ending unless you find a thing in the game that tells you the order of the 6 elements.
I didn't go that deep into it. I beat it, but I don't remember.
When you get to... All right, you get to the final boss.
Oh, right, and you have to do it, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
You have to use the 6 tones, which are the 6 elements in a specific order that the game literally tells you exactly twice in a non-repeatable way over the course of like a 60-hour game.
Should have paid attention. That's Rick's fault.
I wrote it down. I literally, I saw it and I was like,
care that much to do that.
That's weird.
It's a cool game. Chrono Cross is a cool game, but it's just not... It came up,
and I was like, I don't know, like that... It seems like that was kind of important, but we're not coming back to it. Whatever, maybe it's like a thing. And then it came up a second time. I was like, I'm gonna write this down. This seems like it's a little too important that they would have mentioned it.
We're
twice
taking
like
limelight away from our 2 stars right now.
The cats.
The cats. I don't know if you can see Tonka right now, but she's freaking.
Yeah, there's a little teeny moth. It's
the cutest, tiniest thing. Anyway,
but there's our list. I'll read them off. I'll read them off one more time. At the end, there's gonna be an end slate that shows our 3 lists, but number 25, Mega Man X2, tied for number 23, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 and Mario Paint. Number 22, Lufia 2. Number 21, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. Number 20, Demon's Crest. Number 19, Secret of Mana. Number 18, Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie's Double Trouble. Number 17, Super Mario Kart. Number 16, Super Mario All-Stars. Number 15, Super Metroid. Number 14, Final Fantasy IV. Number 13, Earthbound. Number 12, Donkey Kong Country 1. Number 11, Tetris Attack. Number 10, Kirby's Dream Land 3. Number 9, Super Mario World. Number 8, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. Number 7, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Number 6, Kirby Superstar. Number 5, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. Number 4, Mega Man X. Number 3, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Number 2, Chrono Trigger. And number 1, Final Fantasy VI. Yep.
We did it.
Can I point out that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Square games on this list developed within a 6-year period.
And they've never recovered.
Yep. Final Fantasy IV was 1991. Secret of Mana was 1993. Final Fantasy VI was 1994. Chrono Trigger was 1995. Mario RPG was 1996.
So good.
Our top 2 all-time Super Nintendo games were developed within a year of each other.
Yeah. They do good work over there in the 90s.
Real.
Yeah.
That's the reason you can't deny Sony was smart as fuck to jump on that as soon as Nintendo and them had their falling out.
And after 7, though, I don't know.
I think 7 was good. 8 was very good, but it was weird. They tried.
We'll
to change
have
up
to
too
do
much.
another video on Final Fantasy.
So there's our top 25
I love
list
it.
for the
Let
25th
us know in the comments because
anniversary.
it was so close that Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy could really go either way, and even any of the top 10 could be shuffled around depending on our mood or how the voting goes.
For what it's worth, not only is this the 25th anniversary of the Super Nintendo, this week we're also celebrating 2,500 Let's Play videos on the D-pad. So our number 2,500.
We've done 2,500 videos.
2,500 Let's Play videos.
Really think about that.
Yeah.
We're not even that. How old are we?
29, 28.
No, our fucking channel.
Oh,
I was like, what?
5 years.
5 years.
Change.
That's
the
more than
majority,
a video a day.
The vast majority of this channel is only 3 years old because 3 years ago today, as we record this, was when we announced the Legendary
You're right.
Let's
Are
Play.
we pulling 2 videos a day on average forever?
Well,
So
not
3 on
forever.
weekdays, 2 on. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Right now we're 3 on weekdays. But yeah, 3 years ago. So
That's a
let's see.
lot
The
of fucking
26th
videos.
is on Friday. So this Friday will be 3 years to the day since the very first Legend of Zelda video
When we came back
on our channel.
started.
When we
Basically when we started.
started. The first 2 years was us not knowing what to do, and then it was just like, let's try this,
Yeah.
and it worked.
Yeah. So thank you guys for being with us for all that time. We would love to hear your lists for the Super Nintendo, honestly. I know it's hotly contested.
Yeah, please, in the comments, share what you think are your top 25 Super Nintendo games for the 25th anniversary of the
Or at
Super
least
Nintendo.
pick a side on the Final Fantasy VI versus Chrono Trigger debate.
Versus A Link to the Past. I think A Link to the Past
It's
has a
in there,
valid
it's in there.
place in that debate.
And fucking tell us what other videos like this you'd like to see. These are fun to do. for
Yeah,
us.
these are awesome. These are, I don't have to edit all that much to make these things happen, which is a great thing for me.
fucking.
But also, it's us. We get a chance to just sit and just talk about video games, talk about our childhoods, talk about.
Which, as you saw, there are
adulthoods
some
and-
moments where we're like, we get sentimental about this stuff. We care.
Yeah,
We care for you.
it's just awesome to get to sit down and just talk about shit that means something to us.
Yeah.
I
I
it
can't
reminds me of
overstate
movies.
how much of an effect that Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger
Movies-
had on my growing
movies,
up psyche.
video games, TV, and music are the hardest things to communicate feelings for.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it, there are so many days I wish I could go on Facebook and emote a song.
No, it's the same thing. Like when you travel, people are like, "How's your trip?" You're like, "Good." Like I was just in another country for 2 weeks. You're never gonna understand, so it was good. Like
In
Final Fantasy VI is good, but it's
4 days,
more than that.
4 days after this is being recorded, I'm going to be in Las Vegas for the first time in my entire life.
It's okay.
I've never been. I'm excited. It's going to be a great time.
It'll be good.
But you can't emote something that is abstractly.
Final Fantasy VI taught me about art and music and writing and design, just thinking about a plot and how you can, there's a lot going on there. Don't underestimate it. A lot of people are like, oh, it's just a video game. Like, how good a story can it be? But
we have other top and bottom style lists, videos that we'd like to make. This is one that the timing was very important and we got a little loose on the timing. But
by fucking 12 hours, Rick,
yeah,
don't beat yourself up.
No, I agree. It's at the end of the day,
we're filming it at the right time.
I think it matters.
We were
too that,
there.
it's right in between the 25th anniversaries and our 2500th
Yeah.
video. I think it's a good
it's
spot for
solid.
this.
But we got to go. The
Yeah,
cat is
it's-
telling us it's time.
It is. What time in the morning? Almost 2 a.m.
Almost 2 a.m.
We've recorded about
3
almost
hours
4
of this,
hours
yeah.
to make this video happen. So
we'll see you next time. Thank you, and let us know what you
so
think.
Much. See you around.